What is going on in YouTube world? I'm Steve, I'm Dave. This is the Insert Revolution podcast, episode Michael Jordan.
Nice touch, Dave. Nice touch.
And not the old, I think it was a guard for Penn. That was about mid-90s, late 90s that people were excited. Oh, his name's Michael Jordan. It's like, yeah, that's great. So I see we may have someone popping on soon, but tonight we'll be talking a little more pet peeves. Again, with the excitement of the new year, we also have to counterbalance that with things that agitate us, because this hot card market is still burning white hot. So, I mean, there's a lot of stuff that's going to agitate the true collector and even the quote-unquote investor collector that is out there that I won't say normally wouldn't, but becomes more forthcoming and visual in these hot economic times. So what is new to you? Besides me prognosticating something that happened last Friday, I told you. I know we are sponsored by our friends at Coors Light as well. Tap into the Rocky. What's going on, Vinny?
What's going on, Vinny? So, oh yeah, let's not go there. That was not the intent by any stretch of the imagination.
Well, somebody called it, and I knew it.
Yeah, go pound pavement, Vinny. It's one of those in which, and speak of the devil, there he is. It's all Carlos's fault. We can blame him.
You can blame him for whatever you want. I take no responsibility for anything that happens at any time.
Allegedly. Welcome, Carlos.
Good evening. Can I quickly give my biggest hobby pet peeve? Really quick, just one right off the top.
Shoot.
My biggest hobby pet peeve are hobby live streams that go over 40 and a half minutes. It's absolute trash. It's only jerks that do stuff like that. Complete assholes. And it's absurd. It's obscene. It needs to stop. It really does.
Well, and there's three of us right here.
Yeah, exactly.
So are we the king of the assholes?
Steve, I merely stated what my hobby pet peeve was. I leave it open to the interpretation of the audience what they want to derive from that. That's not mine to do.
I will say it was fun. I mean, it was good conversation, a lot of interaction with the chat, which always makes things so much easier to continue to keep going.
Considering how long it was, I was shocked how much interactivity there still was at that point. It was like they were hanging in. Now, I will say, and I will put this on the record, if I have to press the button mid-sentence myself, we will never approach that number again. That is the record. We're leaving it there because it's diminishing returns. Like we've reached the mountaintop. That is it. There is no more. There's no more gas in the tank. Well, there is gas in the tank, but there's no use to go beyond that point. When you're approaching an 8-hour shift, that's really not necessary. It really isn't.
8-hour shift on top of an 8-hour shift.
Correct. So it's like, we're good. We're okay. We've done what we can.
When I looked at the time, I'm like, no fucking way. I'm like, you guys just got off the stream, and I fucking am just waking up. Oh, okay.
Oh, come on, Dave.
The first thing I wanted to do, I did take the screenshot, and I'm like, okay, I can't text him now. He's probably still up, but I had said I'm going to be on Carlos's stream. I said, 7-hour show.
Mm.
And all it was shut it. No way.
For the record, though, my favorite thing is I went back and listened to part of it, and there was when somebody made a statement, some kind of a comment, and in the comment, I think they were mentioning it's like, 6 hours tonight, and I think we literally said it's like, oh, not tonight, and then Steve was like, yeah, not tonight. Yeah. Hours, fast forward hours later, so not 6, but 7.5? Question mark. Okay.
It was still a blast, though, to say the least. I slept until I think 12:30.
I was gonna say I thought you slept until 10 minutes before this on the stream.
No. No, it was good times though.
No, that's for sure. And there was one of those things. And if it wasn't enough, so this Friday, Bobby's coming on from the start. So I said, all right, we'll start hot. We'll just get going. But I told him, I was like, we're not going that long. And he's like, yeah, I know. I agree.
What's sad though, Carlos, if you really think about it though,
There's a lot of sad things about that if I really think about it. But please go on.
no. We probably still could have been going. I mean,
yeah. No,
there was,
yeah.
we all still had juice in the tank. The conversation was still going. And I mean, if I'm not mistaken, there was a couple times after we hit the 7-hour mark, though, trying to find an opportunity to wrap it up. And then all of a sudden, it's like we went down this road or this road and just kind of kept going.
Yes.
But it happens.
It does. It does. That is a fact.
So Carlos has already indicated one of his pet peeves. I know we're going to try something a little different this time.
I just wanted to get you guys started hot. I thought we'd start with an actual pet peeve within the first couple of minutes.
You know, Dave and I were chatting a little bit before going live. So I know Dave has one, and to a certain degree, I have the same type of situation. So Dave, I'll let you kind of start it off, and I'll wrap it up because I can actually show specifically on my phone one that royally chaps my ass, especially considering I thought I had this card, and to a certain degree I do, but it's missing one small thing, like a serial number.
That is a thing, yeah.
Mine, and I just showed you, Carlos, too, when I sent the link.
Mm-hmm.
I fucking hate. Okay, put your bin on the card or a lot, whatever you want to do. And it's such a poorly listed title. I mean, literally, it can be taken out of like a Webster's dictionary. It can be taken out of Wikipedia, just as the name. And I offer, again, I'm not 100% certain on those cards. I will always say that. If it's something I don't gravitate towards, which that card I don't, but I thought, decent offer, at least say, hey, I'm looking for this. Message me with something, because I didn't offer like $25 on $1,000 buy it now best offer. I offered $165 on it. Probably not what he's looking for, obviously, but at the same time, come back, say, hey, there's a message. You can say decline, but you can add a message. Say, I'm looking for 400, 500, whatever the case may be. Then I'll say, hey, I'm done. But at the same time, at least the communicative parts of the eBay were, instead of not having any communication, leaving the seller up like on a pedestal and leaving the buyer, I was going to come back 225, 250, but I'm like, you know what? That's not one of my quote unquote grails. So why am I going to offer that kind of money on something I like, I eventually hope to get, but at the same time, it's not something that's in that upper echelon of cards I want. But not to have a egregious and an enormous bin, buy it now on an eBay auction, and then have the best offer option available and not come back with any communication saying, hey, this is not acceptable, or hey, we're not that far apart. It's just flat out declined. So, and again, you get the number of views because I know they see the price of the buy it now, like, what the hell's that about? Then you see that card plain as day, and it's awesome because the first picture isn't the front of the cards, it's the back. So obviously the seller knows what he's got. He's got something in there that's a little nugget. But that's one thing I've always hated. I always go with, it's your card, sell it for what you want. But at the same time, if you're putting that best offer option in there, communicate if you want to sell it. If you don't, fucking put that in your description of the card, saying, "Hey, I'm just putting up these for a museum." Nah, it ain't gonna. I'm not gonna move them unless you have a Brinks truck on you and it's fully loaded. So that one is. It gets me riled up every time. Not as much as a couple other topics that Steve doesn't really want to traverse into. But
That's not a hobby pet peeve. That is a niche pet peeve. Let's clarify, Dave.
it's a hobby to a certain degree.
Ay, Dave, you're killing me. You're killing me. You're killing me.
Not even 11 minutes in, it's already spiraling like a toilet.
So here's mine. Carlos, go ahead. You were about to say something.
I was just about to say, it's like, let this all be the moment when it all started to spiral downward. So I'll take a nap at some point and I'll come back for hour 8 just to help you guys finish it off.
No.
Well, this is your show. The button isn't being controlled by me. It's just for the record. No matter what happens, I'm just an innocent bystander on this one.
I think Dave would probably
Pass out?
yeah.
So that means the stream would be like 24 hours.
Possibly.
We just continue.
Of nothingness.
So about the same as normal. Give or take. Later on, the feedback is like, this is the best I don't know. I can't put my finger on it, but this is the best one. This is really good.
Why is it so good? Oh, because nobody's here.
The quality was like top notch. It was great.
So this one isn't horrendous by any stretch of the imagination, but this is one prime example. Let's see if it'll show up. So
98.
well, yep. Starting bid 125 or best offer. So not horrendous, but let's be realistic. That is not a $125 card. Why even try and list it for that? And the reason why I bring this one up specifically is because, I've always considered me having this card. Well, come to find out, as I was prepping stuff for part 4 of the PC showcase, which I still haven't done, I realized mine doesn't have a serial number.
Oh,
that's a problem.
mm-hmm.
So it's a placeholder, which I will treat it as a placeholder, but it's one in which, okay, crap, now I have to go back and, try and acquire said one with a serial number. And it's not going to be this one because, I don't even think that's, and this is me personally, it's not a $60 card. It's not there yet. In time, yes, I could see atomic refractors from 98 in football being of that caliber. It just, we're not there yet. Mm-hmm. This is one which cracks me up.
So Stadium Club Atomic Refractor, it says.
Yeah,
Gem question mark.
Yeah, it's a triumvirate.
Right.
$330. But oh wait, the seller offered a discount. Is it gonna pop up here?
Oh, the automated discount you get by the email thing?
Yeah, $250.
Nice.
Have you lost your freaking mind?
It's a discount.
It's not Barry Sanders. It's not Emmitt Smith. It's not Brett Favre. It's not Tom Brady. Granted, Tom Brady wasn't back at night, but you get where I'm going with this. Consider the player before you sit there. And to me, I've always said those are indications to where, personally, I think there is a personal attachment to cards like that. And either they're trying to test the market or try and set a new trend with said player in the market because of the current state of where we are.
Could be. I will say, though, this is not a defense, but I will point out that sometimes you will, in certain cards, I have intentionally used a very high buy it now with the best offer, but I've been willing to take reasonable offers. Sometimes it wards off tire kickers. Because if you because again, you don't want to go like super crazy. You don't put like $10,000 on like $100 card. But if you go a little bit high, it will get certain people in the right mindset. And then you set the auto decline below a certain threshold. That way you don't have to deal with it manually. It'll be automatic on the second they click the button. It'll throw it back at them and be like, no, that's too low. You're not even going to be in the conversation. But then a lot of times you'll get somebody who actually throws a more reasonable number at you, and you're like, all right, I think we're good. And then you take the deal, and everybody's happy, and you're good to go. It just depends. You're just trying to kind of send a message. Now, to your point, you can be trying to send the message, I don't actually want to sell it, unless you give me the Godfather offer. That's a different thing. But I've gone intentionally a little bit high. Just, you know what? If someone really urgently wants it and they hit the buy it now, I'm not going to cry. But if they'll come up close to my number and as an offer, then we're still good. I'm willing to work with them a little bit. I've got some room to negotiate.
No, and I get that, and I've done it myself in years past. It just, to me, at least that card specifically, it's shooting a little too high. Now I could see maybe starting at $250, $200, because I've seen them sell for 80, 85. But when you, like you said, I mean, you put something up at a little bit higher of a number to kind of set the message and try and bring in the people who are going to be more reasonable as it pertains to submitting an offer. But, for me, when I see something like that, now I put them on my watch list just to see. Because if it does sell, then I'll go do my research and I'll go look at, watch count and see maybe what transpired or whatnot. But it turns me away from it real quick because I don't want to be that person who lowballs and then it's like something else comes up that I really, really, really want. And then all of a sudden it's like because it was a lowball offer in somebody's mind that it's now kind of taken me out of the running for potentially something else that the seller might have though too.
Yeah, I'm not a fan. It just, and again, they're not going to nobody's going to put that in the description. Like, oh, this is like $1,000, but I'm willing to work with you, or 15,000, and watch me sit on my Burger King throne, and you guys can all grovel at me for chicken nugget scraps.
That would actually be hilarious, and I would actually appreciate that on several levels. I'd be like, you know what, sir? I appreciate your honesty. I do. I actually appreciate it.
But yeah, that's one that I didn't have written down, but that is one that I do just want to punch the phone. If I had a computer, want to punch the computer screen and be like, Jesus, what is going on here?
Well, and people post stuff like that though I'll use the terminology as what Dave uses, and hopefully they're earmuffs, children, earmuffs. Some people do that though as a dick measuring contest. Haha, see what I have. Mm-hmm. Nobody else has it. Here's my free advertisement of look at this, and yet there is no intent to sell. It's a way for them to put themselves, I guess, on a throne or on a pedestal to show off something that no one else has, or most people won't ever bother to own.
Yeah. Yeah, there's a couple sellers on eBay I know that are notorious for that. I want to say what vintage snowmobiles and then Black Jade Rose. Those two are ones that just have stuff that is. I look up Dwayne Bowe maybe once every 3 weeks, and there's still so much 08 Flawless or not Flawless NT.
Yeah, I was going to say NT.
And it's $250, $350 for like a patch auto to 10. I'm like, that's like a $25 card. And I think the only person I know that's actually ever made any deal with her is Smitty, John, for I think an Eric Berry along the line. Or I know it's somebody because he had I know he had that story of him working some sort of deal where he felt at least comfortable enough paying X amount. I mean, probably overpaying, but knowing that that opportunity is not going to come along that often from that seller. So you got to pay up, and you still feel okay. I'm not getting the greatest of deal, but the card I want, and I need it. And guess what? I got to grab it before somebody else somehow does, or is even dumber than I. So that's the only one that I know of that's had any success in that realm. But again, if you just want eBay as a visual museum, there's a lot of people out there.
Yeah, that same person has quite a few TDs, and there is no way that I would ever consider paying some of the prices. I mean, some of them are $500, and that's usually like your flawless.
Mm-hmm.
And when I can get, when I paid 330, 332, 336, somewhere in that realm or whatever for my 101, and yet I can't even quote unquote sniff a patch auto to 10 because it's listed for $500. That's just stupid.
Yeah, that the name on of the brand, that's ridiculous because I see that with just pretty much everyone that's in a flawless product. It's like the multiplier is like 2 to 4 times, 2 to 5 times more because you see the word flawless on the card. It's like it's at the beginning it was cool. They have not done anything to really enhance the brand since it came out. It's the same stuff, and now you're devaluing it by using player worn stuff on there for veterans that have been around, veterans that have long since retired. So you're devaluing a once fabled product, and people still buy into you get it in a briefcase. Cool. I'll give you Steve Mongo McMichael's Halliburton from fucking Monday Nitro and the Four Horsemen, and I'll put some cards in there. Does that mean that's like a 10 times value? No.
Yes, Dave. Yes.
Jesus, Mondo McMichael. That's really your reference that you wanted to go with, huh? That's a reach right there, Dave. That's a real reach.
Well, he had the Halliburton with what's her name?
I get it. I get it. I do.
I know. Trying to reach for those brass rings. It's failing, but trying.
The effort is there, Dave. I can definitely see the. I will say my favorite part about this one is I am being entertained as I got the ComC order, so I'm literally sorting through hundreds of cards as we're talking. So I'm being entertained as we're going along.
Prepping for the 4-part series coming up.
It's going to be something like that. The first part of it may be me just cursing out ComC for putting the full dollar amount in so I could pay the full duty, which was wonderful.
Ouch.
That was a double bonus. I was like, you morons. Here's a pet peeve for you. Don't put the full price when you're not going to insure it for the full price. It's insured for $200. They wrote down $2,200. So I get hit with the full extent of Canadian customs.
Ouch.
You don't want to know how much it cost me to get that box in the mail. You do not want to know.
$600.
Literally $600.
Ouch, that hurts.
It does hurt. It hurts a lot. When I got the box, I was like, I'm not mad at the postal person who's doing this. I'm mad at the people who wrote it down on the piece of paper. I've decided I'm mad at ComC Barry just out of spite. Like, that's it. ComC Barry, it's you. It was you, wasn't it? It was you all along.
Ouch.
Have him on your next show. And hey, can we talk about ComC and like their shipping now, and if anything's updated, and just come out right away?
Well, the thing is, they've been coming closer and closer to getting into serious problems with me, and I was like, I know what's going to happen. I know it. So then when I saw it, and it shows you when you put in the tracking, it shows here's the custom bill, and I looked at it, I was like, $295, really? Dudes. So when the lady at the postal station is like, so how do you want to pay? Credit card. It's like, oh, you can tap. It's like, trust me, I can't tap for $300. It ain't gonna work. I'm gonna have to put it in the machine and put in the PIN number. Thank you. Good day. At least I got my cash back. That's all I'm getting out of this. So let me take what I can. Jesus.
Yeah, that hurts.
I will say the cards that are in the package are fantastic. Like, it's some real good stuff here. It's gonna be fun doing the video, but I'm gonna need a couple of days to get over the sting first. It hurts.
There goes the card budget for the next month and a half.
Well, I think what's going to happen is I'll probably sell some stuff anyway that I'd plan on selling. So, and some of this stuff actually might be good for sale as well, actually. So some of it, because there's some extra Sotos in there that I had duplicates of. So I was like, okay, maybe I can move a couple of these and recoup some of that. So it might work out in the end, but it's not the way I intended to do it.
Now you're going to have to do some work.
Yeah, nah, I was like, this is exactly what I was trying to avoid. This whole work thing. I don't even do that at work. What is this idiocy?
So what else, Steve? Have you picked up anything as of late since we actually got into some of the topic points? Thank you, Carlos, for leading us down that road.
But I thought I would try to help out. I'm trying to help out while I can, while I'm multitasking. This is actually a nice one. That's a good one. That's the Gretzky Medano. That was actually
nice.
the price on that was actually really good. I was happy. And the Medano is a 2-color piece, which is nice. Actually pretty good for that one. That's why I say, like, there's some decent stuff. Even the not low numbered stuff is actually still pretty decent.
Yeah, at some point I'll have to bite the bullet and deal with slow shipping on ComC and fill in some gaps.
Well, that was the thing. I wouldn't. It wouldn't have gotten hit nearly as hard if I had been willing to wait 6 months. But I'm like, I can't wait 6 months. Come on.
Yeah. So now, Dave, I bid on a magenta plate from Legacy this evening and lost. I refused to pay over $30 for a plate with shipping. Call me crazy, but it's I can't justify paying $30 plus shipping for a plate. That's just
Not for a plate. No.
that's where I sit on that. Unless we go back to the Pinnacle days to where the origination of the printing plate, different situation. But for all the newer stuff, as I've said before, I'm still watching some cards to fill gaps in some sets, some insert sets. I missed out. I forgot to bid on a 95 SP Hollowview lot. There was 33. 33? Yep. And the set's 40 cards. But there was a lot of 33. I think it went for like $15 and some change. So I was on a video call, and I had it up on my screen on my phone as I was on the video call, and we were talking through stuff. And by the time I realized, it's like, because I was trying to watch the time on my computer also, by the time I looked down, I was like, oh crap. I'm like, damn it.
I got to get you boys on the automated sniper train, guys. I can't be bothered to be sitting there staring at it because there's too many things that can distract you. I preset it to whatever price I'm good with, hit the button, and we move on with our lives. 5 seconds to go. It does it all for me.
It's one of those, call me, it's no different with, automatic bill pay. I feel like it's taking the control out of my hands. And that would really bother me if, for whatever reason, said sniping tool had an issue and my bid didn't go in for something that I really wanted.
I believe it, but I will say, like, literally hundreds of snipes. So it's one of those things like, let's put it this way. The likelihood of you being distracted and missing the snipe manually is much greater than the sniping tool going down.
No, and that makes sense. And for a seller like TNT, for instance, Dave, Vinny, I know you watch a lot of stuff of his. Carlos, I don't know if he ships up to Canada or not, or if you've come across him yet.
TNT? Actually, I think so. The name, it rings a bell because I think they've got a lot of like random rare inserts, right, and stuff, right?
Yes.
Yeah, so I'm pretty sure I've come across them at some point.
So for somebody like that who, does mass uploads and you have, 6 or 7 auctions that end within a matter of seconds of another, that definitely would prove to be beneficial. Unlike, because I prefer to bid at the last minute. Dave will put in bids on, quite a few things if they're all going within, a matter of seconds or a matter of minutes. So it's obvious that for me, I have to pick and choose. Dave can, do quite a few in preparation, but at the same time, in the event that he gets outbid, he's hosed.
Shh, Bob. Tony doesn't like to be called out. Even B.
I don't know who you're talking about, Bob Lewis.
He's a YouTube Hall of Famer. Don't question him. He's above reproach.
Oh, so in other words, we're being graced by royalty? Is that what you're trying to say?
Oh, yeah. Without a doubt.
Yeah, we found out Mr. Lewis, we're going to start calling him Mr. Lewis now, is hoteling again. So he's traveling for work yet again. You're on the verge.
At least I know he was paying attention. It's like, no, you're getting impeached. Just you realize that. Like, it's done. If you want, though, you can maintain your royal title. You can be Burger King. So, we'll get you that crown. And then you can hang on to that one. Listen, I'll let you keep that. I'll get you one myself. I will get you one of those crowns. You can wear it anywhere. You can prance up and down the street with it. It's really up to you.
Just put it on video so we can record it.
Correct. So this one's good, Dave. I don't know if you remember these. It's a little bit on the plain side, but I like those. It was the early 2000 ink sweaters from SP Authentic.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah. These it's kind of understated, but I actually kind of like the card. I've always thought those were kind of cool.
Simple design, but yet on card.
Yeah, and you get an on-card auto. That's the big thing with these.
Yep.
Here's one for you, Steve. I said there would be a little bit. How about an AP refractor?
Blue refractor at that.
Yep. Oh, these things were cheap.
50? Number to 50?
This one is...
Or 299? 199?
I'll find it here. Take a look.
Yeah, it's kind of in the middle, I think.
Yeah, this is the 08, so I don't know if it's numbered. They might actually be unnumbered.
Yeah, they change the serial numbering for different years sometimes.
Yeah, I will say though, nice card. Still early years for Peterson, and I just thought it was a good looking card for what it was, and I was like, and I swear this had to be less than $5. I was like, nice.
He's a Hall of Famer.
Yep, it's like I'll take it.
And the fact that it's a refractor, there's always going to be a market for refractors, no matter what year, what brand, whether it be Finest or Tops.
Yeah, and this one is the numbered one. There's the green.
Green.
$2.99. So nice. It's a good pair.
Yep, nothing wrong with that.
Yep. So part of so there's a sneak preview to the very large. That's a little snippet of what's in there.
Looks like good variety too, Carlos.
No, when it's ComC, I do like to grab. I've got hockey, baseball, and football. I've even got one. I've got one solitary basketball card. I'll leave that as a surprise at the end of one of the videos. It's not an expensive card, but it was a fun card that I thought I bought it tongue in cheek, and it only cost me a couple of bucks. So I was like, yeah, I'll buy it.
Interesting. Now, so everybody's now going to be waited with bated breath to see what basketball card Carlos is going to show.
It is relevant to the time that I bought it, and it is relevant to the COVID time period. So there is 4 reasons the card will be there.
Well, it just so be looking forward to future videos on the Because I'm Carlos YouTube channel for future card reveals.
We should be looking forward to as I was talking to Bobby the other day, and I said I'm about 90% sure I'll get a pint glass with that logo on it. If I do, don't be surprised if I reach out. It's like, send me your address. I'll send you one. It's gonna be a small batch of them because they're gonna be mostly for fun. I might hang on to 1 or 2 if somebody wants it. Hey, you want a prize? Okay, you can have a pint glass with the logo on it.
I think it's a great idea. It's one of those that it's synonymous with you, your channel.
It's like, or as Paul would say, and what was it? It's not unbridled. There is it was Megalomaniac. Megalomania is. I forget what the word he threw in front of it was, but it's like, yeah, the megalomania. It's like, yeah, no, that is on brand for my channel.
Well, and I told you, I was like, if you do it, I'll buy one, and that's no joke. I would buy one and drink from it during the podcast.
Believe me, if I get a small batch of them, I'll be drinking from it during the podcast. Like, shameless swag.
Hey, it makes it's an extra added touch, so to speak, and there's nothing wrong with self plugging. Although I tried my best to not overly plug the podcast.
You may wish to rephrase the way you pursue that in the future. I don't know if that's the direction you would like to go. If that's that kind of podcast, you may need to readjust the rating. Is there another rating above like explicit?
So the time we go on.
I understood what you meant.
Should have known.
If I hadn't said it, the resident Hall of Famer, soon to be impeached, would have. Would you rather I point it out? Would you rather wait for him?
Well, no, it's amazing. Before you even said it, I started thinking. I'm like, yeah, that probably wasn't the right choice of words.
No. I understood what you meant. We'll workshop that one.
Yeah. So Dave, make a note at about 35:53. We need to do a snippet and cut it out of the podcast.
The funny thing is, if you had done something that was copyrighted, YouTube actually has the ability to do that, which is why I wonder why they don't let you actually do it with the videos themselves. Like, if I actually did want to cut if you did like a copyright thing, you could press a button and you could remove it.
Oh, really?
Yeah, so YouTube has the capability to do, because they scan all the videos once they get even the live streams, they'll still scan them for stuff. Like if Dave suddenly blared, he decided to just play like Super Bowl 2 or 3 in the background. The NFL has flagged this. It would happen. He was like, but it's in the corner of the screen. You can still see it.
Yep. Yeah, I've actually got Transformers up on the TV right now. Since I got banished to the bedroom yet again because I think my wife is deaf and doesn't know how to turn the volume down. I will say there's no more beeping. I fixed that today.
Based on feedback from the community. Steve has made adjustments.
Yeah, well, when you've dealt with it for as long as what I had, like I said, you just kind of block it out. But I had an opportunity, and I'm like, okay, something's got to give here, because the beeping has to do with a low battery. Well, you go and look at the diagram or whatever, the stupid thing, and like, thanks for telling me how to change the battery, yet mine doesn't look like this. Where do I go to change the battery?
Nice. So
I did some additional digging and happened to find the backup battery and the power supply, and I unplugged that thing. So no más beeping.
Oh my goodness, in Espanol.
Yes. So after all these years, now everybody can quit griping about the beeping. Not that they could hear it in here, but when I'm no longer banished to the bedroom, that should no longer be a problem.
Good news.
So no, Ty. See, the rule of thumb is to start it from the beginning, 2 times speed, and catch up, and then you get everything in context, which I started doing myself.
Yeah, the live streams are long enough that you can totally pull that off. That used to be my play when I would come in a little bit later. But the thing is, by the time you get caught up, it's like you got caught up. You know what's going on. You're like, okay. So now all my insults and trolling will be on point. I wouldn't have missed something critical that will be key to the trolling. Got to do your research, man. Do the work. Put in the work. Respect the game.
Valid point, Carlos. As always.
Here you go, Steve. This is in tribute to you boys. Crest of honor with the Dallas logo done in with a Dallas patch.
I like that.
Yeah, so
That's cool.
This is the out of 31. They had 2 versions of these. This is the Crest of Honor Gold version. So I thought it was a cool card.
That is cool. I like that.
Like I said,
Of course.
variety, very variety.
We do have the best song, just saying.
There you go. Which year of Elite was that, Dave?
98. These are all the promos that
Those are nice.
supposedly there's a couple of them, Hasek and someone else, there's a boatload of, but everybody else is supposedly about 100 or less
Okay.
in the print run.
For the promos, it wouldn't shock me. It really wouldn't, because some of those they used to give away. That used to be one of the best parts about the old Expo in Toronto, is that when the manufacturers used to come, when Pinnacle was around, when Leaf was around, Donruss was around, they would give out the promos. And I had it years ago. I sold it a long time ago. But they did. They had a Pipe Dreams insert set. I don't know if you remember that one, Dave. The Pipe Dreams subset. Well, they gave out promos of them, and back then I got the Wah promo, which is one of the better ones. And those promos still had some value because people love those.
I think, Vinny, there was one or two I didn't win. I didn't win Hasek because, again, I'm going off the Beckett because, again, there was nothing, no Donruss Elite or Donruss 98 set ever made. But they said Hasek and someone else. I mean, of course, the Beckett, I think, is downstairs. But were ultra easy to come by. So I'm like, okay, I can pass on those, especially with the Hasek. I think it was like $5 or $6. And I'm like, I wanted the Brodeur, and if I could get everybody else dirt cheap, I was hoping to. And that's, I think, what I did. Even Yzerman was super cheap. Somebody else, I don't even remember who it was, but went for like 20, 25, somewhere in there. And I'm like, okay, I won't get that one, but I think everything else that was that Carter cards again. I don't know how much. He seems to be like the co-signer of like hockey stuff because he's got, seems every week or every couple weeks, just some stupid inserts. Those were where those Fire on Ice with the Lemieux and the Gretzky sold for about 100 each, or Gretzky was a little over, Lemieux a little under.
Is that the 96, 97?
Yep.
I don't know why those are so difficult. I actually like the design on the other Fire and Ice year, like 97, 98. I prefer that one, but the 96, 97 is actually surprisingly difficult. I don't know why.
It seems like all those Leaf inserts are just, you can't find them.
Yeah, because that's the thing. Like I've been on the lookout for the Medano for that one for a bit, but it's like, it's out there, I'm sure, but it's like, I heard from so one of Matt's buddies from the Essential Credentials podcast, the Tim Salmon Collector. I remember the name, but it's in the back of my mind.
Right.
But the thing is that he was asking me about some of the inserts. Yeah, there you go. Well, that's good. No, thanks, Ty.
I was not in no shape, form, or fashion under any duress during said interview.
Well, it's out of your own back, but outside of that,
yeah.
We just did that through attrition and time.
I tell you what, man, Saturday afternoon, I was hurting. I was hurting bad. Well, and some people know, some people don't. I actually have a herniated disc. And I've been very fortunate enough to where I've only had to have 2 injections in my back, epidural steroid injections. The first one didn't last. The second one actually has lasted me damn near 10 years. And that includes, moving into my house, helping my sister and brother-in-law move, a lot of other things. I've been very fortunate. But sitting in that stool about killed me. And Ed, if you happen to go watch Carlos's podcast for 7 hours and 22 minutes, right, Carlos?
Thereabouts, yeah. Just shy of 7.5,
yeah. You will go see my name was the Foulmouth Hockey Oracle.
That's right. Full title. Show the respect.
And I had to have Carlos. I misspelled hockey on purpose, and I'm like, people are going to miss that mark because I did it on purpose to prove that I'm not. And then Carlos noticed it immediately, which I had a feeling he would. And I'm like, you know what? people are probably not going to catch on to the whole reason behind it. So yeah, go ahead and change it. So yeah, I'm not going to answer that question because I don't watch hockey until it's the playoffs.
But if you check out the first 45 minutes or so, we had some scintillating football analysis as well.
We
had a breakdown.
Yes, we did.
I try to bring it into the. I try to bring it in, and Dave knows this. I try to bring in what the some of the stuff the guest likes too. The first time Dave was on, we talked Mystery Science Theater 3000. We chatted about a couple of different things. I have a little bit of versatility, so I try to bring that in. It's like, guys, I can talk that too. Why not?
Yeah, we won't rehash the customs conversation, but it's something that happened, and it was something that I felt like bringing up because of the conversation. Because I mean, I was on with a bunch of Canadians. Mm-hmm. Let's go figure. I was the only one that was from the States, but they've traveled into the States. I mean, they can relate to a certain degree in dealing with customs and everything else. They're doing their job, and I get that. But talk about very frustrating. And feeling like I was being interrogated, like I had done something wrong. I'm just trying to come into the country so I can go to my job for 2 weeks and be a part of a project and then go home. and I will, I'm gonna. This ought to tell you something, since I've never traveled out of the country. So it was one of those in which. So I flew into Newark, New Jersey, to catch my connecting flight up to Ottawa. I had the same path coming home, which I was looking forward to, because I was actually going to fly into Newark in the evening so I could see the Statue of Liberty and I could see Ground Zero at night, see it illuminated and everything else.
Right.
So I was like really looking forward to that. Well, they had bad weather, so my flight got canceled. So they had to put me on a different flight. So I went from Ontario to Toronto to then catch the flight home. And when I got to Toronto, I was going through customs and, getting questions and everything else. I was like, where are you coming from? I'm coming from Canada. We understand that. Where are you coming from? Canada. You're still in Canada. Oh, shit.
Yeah.
I'm coming from Ontario. I'm sorry. And I felt like an idiot because I'm thinking, hey, I'm just trying to get home, folks.
It's like they knew he was fake. It's like, why? Because he calls it Toronto, not Tirana. Some of the locals call it Tirana. Why?
Yeah.
I don't know.
Well, what are you talking about? People some time ago were asking when I was going up to Canada, where are you going? I'm going to Canada. Mm-hmm. Okay, we know you're going to Canada, but where? I'm going to Canada. Okay, I'm going to Ontario.
You got to emphasize the T, Kanata. Like I said, my buddy used to live by that because that's where they would put the Canada is where they put the hockey arena. The Ottawa Senators actually played a Canada, not Ottawa proper. Mm-hmm. So they actually built it in the middle of nowhere, and then they built the infrastructure around it, which is kind of interesting.
I've been up there.
Yeah. It actually looks nice. After they built the stuff there and actually put some stuff there, it's okay. But originally it was like a field. And they actually had to build the on-ramp because it didn't exist. Because there was nothing there. So what are you going to build an on-ramp for? So I think as part of the deal, the Ottawa said, okay, look, you build us the arena, and we'll pay for the on-ramp. It was some kind of arrangement like that, and then they came to that deal, so that way they'd have an exit to get to the arena. But then they had to build like restaurants and things around the arena to make it worth everybody's while.
Gotcha. Yeah, I didn't get to see the arena. I may have, as we were, perusing over the weekend. When I was there and did some of the sightseeing stuff, but no reason to actually go, so to speak. Mm-hmm. Got some nice scenery up there, though.
Oh, that region. My family used to go down Ottawa every summer because it's got a lot of space in it. It's nice. We would go just hang out. There was a hotel. There basically was apartments. it was a hotel, but they would be like self-contained suites, so it was very comfortable. So we'd spend a week there. But then my dad and I would go with my dad, my brother and I. We'd go play golf because they got so much space that they'd have these courses and they were actually affordable. So we could go play like $35-$40 a round in a really nice, beautiful course with great scenery. You basically would just hang out. You go play golf and just chill, and it would just be a really relaxing time to spend because it was fun walking the course.
Right.
Plus, my dad and I are both jokers, so we spend most of the time making fun of each other, as you may expect.
No, I don't believe that for a
I
second.
know, shocking. I understand. I get it.
Breaking news on the Insert Revolution podcast.
Let's just say Carlos Sr. is not that far removed from the direction the junior has gone. We're not that far apart. I was actually chatting with him a little bit earlier, and his tradition, as soon as he picked up the phone, he's like, "What?" And I'm like, "You're old." And he goes, "Yeah, older than yesterday." I go, "Yeah, well, you keep doing that. But I have to remind you. Why? Well, you are kind of old, so you may forget." Got to help him out, Trying to help out.
You got to do what you got to do, right?
It's a fact. It's a fact.
No, where they actually used to put us up, and I don't know if they're still going to do it anymore because they moved our corporate headquarters. But they used to put us, all us U.S. folks, at the Brook Street.
Okay.
And the reason because the ex-founder of the company I work for, it was his hotel. It now belongs to his ex-wife, who got it in the divorce. Go figure. But yeah, it was kind of cool to actually meet the founding member of the company I work for, because he still spent a lot of time there.
Nice.
Oh. So who wants to, since Carlos has said his, although partially biased, I would like to say, for reasons. Dave has mentioned his. I've kind of piggybacked off of that one. I know Dave actually has a list. I know we had one mentioned in the comments. Anybody else care to share any that we can discuss in more detail? Because I'd be interested to hear if, everybody else kind of has the same pet peeves or a combination of some of the ones that we've mentioned even in past episodes.
There's got to be legitimately a stack of them. Like, if there's nothing else that the hobby is good for is people complaining. Like, this is your moment. This is what you've trained your lives for.
Well, especially this time of year in the YouTube community. And
We're not going down that rabbit hole.
well, no, I'm just saying people make the goals for the new year, and they're already not making those goals. They're diverting from that. I mean, I don't know what you're thinking, Steve, but
I don't remember. During the live stream, I seem to recall Dave spreading nothing but love and positivity. That's all I recall. That was my recollection.
You may want to go watch the replay because I think you're sadly mistaken, Carlos.
It was pretty long. I might have missed something. It was pretty lengthy. So I'm not sure.
I don't think all my comments got on the screen, which is probably a benefit for everyone.
Dave, I was like, Dave, if nothing else, I don't censor anybody. Now, if somebody says something that legitimately is out of pocket, I'm like, all right, look, I give about as much rope as anybody will give, or just about anything. And I'll address just about anything if I feel it's appropriate. There is a line we'll cross, and a few people have crossed it, and that was a no-go. But outside of that, there's a lot of rope. A lot of comments can make a screen.
Well, and it's one of those in which you can provide speculation, but at the same time, you don't want to go down a path in which you can't validate or verify somebody's claims, so to speak. Everything that I can recall that has ever been discussed that you've brought up, though, Carlos, you've had secondhand or firsthand interactions with individuals that have confirmed or denied certain things. Yeah. But at the same time, you don't go into details.
No.
Because it's not your place to go into details, because you don't want to ever put somebody in a negative light that doesn't want to be put in that light for whatever reason. So always bad props to that.
Yeah. There's two things. Number one, a private conversation is a private conversation. It'll give me context to be able to say, if I hear it from enough independent things that aren't talking to each other, but come to me with a similar story, it gives more validity to it. And the second thing is I'm not in the business of rumor mongering.
Right.
It's not, and it's like, no, especially if I'm not directly involved in it. So it's like, I'll hear things, and sometimes you'll hear some stuff, and it's like, okay, I tend to believe so and so because of what I have heard, but private conversation, and if they're off the record, they're off the record.
Very true, very true. So Dave or Carlos, either one of you want to take Bob's question in relation to pop reports? Because I could give two craps about them.
So they're important in the context of when you're looking at. So if you're collecting something that maybe is graded, well, then pop reports are super important because that'll relate to your comps, right? Because if you're looking at something that seems way out of whack, like there's thousands and thousands and thousands, then you got to ask yourself, okay, is the demand that high? That's important. Or if something goes really high, but maybe it is legitimately condition sensitive and rare, okay, it kind of makes sense. It's not actually an outlier. It's like the card itself is common, but for some reason it's always got a defect. So it's important when you're buying, and it's important when you're selling. If you've got something that's a condition scarcity, you don't want to undercut yourself. But then the pop reports kind of go in line with the comps as well. So first you check the pop report and go, actually, this is pretty condition rare.
Right.
Oh, and by the way, at the same time, the prices are going to be higher because of it. Because sometimes you'll see something, it's like, wait, why would that go for that much? Then you check the pop report. Oh, okay. Okay.
Yep.
That makes a little more sense. Like, a real example, the 1980 Topps Ricky Henderson. Go check what the pop is for the 10. It's low. Real low. Compared to what you'd think, compared to like the 9 or the 8 or whatever, you can get a lot of 9s and 8s. That 10 has been protected by PSA. Some people suggest that it's intentional, but I'm not going to speculate on that.
Right.
But I will say that it is low. So if you're in the market and you go see a 10, come strong, because the people that are out there who have the money and want that card, they've looked at the pop report. So then it matters a lot. So hopefully that gives some context.
They have centering issues though, big time though, don't they?
They can, but there was I was mentioning there was a YouTuber and the name totally escapes me. I want to say Vintage Card Curator. Maybe that sounds right. Something like that. I feel like that's the right one. He did an analysis of it. He was actually trying to figure out, like, okay, is there a good reason why this would seem to be like, is PSA population controlling it, like what Bob says there? And he was asking the question, but he decided to take like a scientific approach. He's like, okay, let's look at the card. He actually went through the trouble of looking at the uncut sheets and figure out where the Henderson is and look at cards around it and see if they have a similar problem with PSA 10s. It turns out the Henderson seems to PSA 10 even less than the cards in the same vicinity. Because normally if something's on the edge or on the corner, maybe it's more prone to getting damaged. He couldn't find a manufacturing reason why the Ricky Henderson should be that much tougher than any other card in that same general vicinity of the sheet. So it seems like it is being protected. We don't know for 100% sure, but looking at it from a sheet standpoint, there's nothing he could find that seemed to make any sense. It's an interesting coincidence.
Does the same apply to a BGS 9.5 though?
It seems to, for the most part.
Okay. I was just curious, because there's...
Yeah, their pop report is right now tougher to read though. Like we know some of the pop reports that BGS has is just wrong, so like way off. The PSA one's not perfect, but at least they do a better job updating it. The BGS one seems completely wrong.
So in Ty, I did notice what you had put in there earlier about the expired Panini redemptions. They do actually really well with expired redemptions up to a certain point. So don't expect to go back to 2011 and try and get one that's expired. I mean, there's always the possibility because that's one thing I will give Panini props for. They really try to fulfill expired redemptions because of a lot of the backlash, especially for when other manufacturers were like, no, once it's expired, it's expired. They were trying to, meet the customer expectations and really focus that as part of their customer service goals. So I'll give them mad props for doing that, but I still think there's a cutoff. Mm-hmm. I don't know what that cutoff is because I haven't purchased any newer or older Panini stuff and tried to redeem anything. So I couldn't tell you how far you could go back. And if I'm not mistaken, I think at one point they came out and said that they were no longer going to do it, fulfill expired redemptions, and they got a ton of backlash, a ton, because of some big cards that were still being pulled out of products through group breaks and everything else. And one of them, I think, being a Giannis, for instance, low serial number and autograph type card that was pulled as a redemption and like a break. And that's really kind of what started some of that backlash. And people were tweeting and, you know, sending emails and all sorts of stuff. And they came back and, you know, reconsidered.
So quickly, Dave, could you put on? I know Ed has a good comment, but could you grab Ty's next comment there? Yeah, perfect. I just want to make sure I quickly talk about this one because I totally get where he's coming from, but one thing you got to know, Ty, is that the guy who bought it, Nat Turner, is a multi-billionaire. So the reality is, for him, it's actually worth more if people think that the PSA 10s are legit. If he had a ton, like he already had a ton of PSA 10s because he's a big buyer. He paid at the very beginning of all this COVID expansion, he paid $350,000 for the Jordan PMG. That was like an authentic, basically. So he's not shy to pay good money. And because people know who he is, like in the hobby, and he's a big time collector, PSA right now is the market leader. It would be a very bad look. All of a sudden, you'd be squandering this opportunity because a lot of people are willing to. They'll abandon BGS right now because of the problems they're having. SGC completely shot themselves in the foot. Why would you wreck your market advantage to get a couple extra PSA 10s when you're a billionaire?
Right.
Why would you care? It's actually worth more to him. Like he'd almost be like, you know what? Give my 10s 9s. We're better off if people think that the grading is on the up and up, because I'll make more money running this company.
Yep.
Than I'll ever make getting a couple extra PSA 10s. It's not worth it. I'm just throwing that out there.
No, I'd agree, Carlos. 100%. And I just saw Ed's comment. Pop control 100% exists on certain cards. I could see it, but that's what holds the integrity and holds the value, though, too, and the rarity, as Carlos was still, kind of alluding to in his response. So,
yeah, I'm the first person who I don't mind tinfoil hat time, but this one is not one where it makes any sense. It would actually be like if I was his business advisor, I'd be like, no, you're way better off. There's a lot of money to be made in this business, just running this business because you're already the number one. You could actually expand your lead and get even further ahead. Why would you do something silly to wreck it? Right now, people are giving him a grace period because they haven't officially taken it over yet.
Right.
So they're going to get a grace period for a while. I would take advantage of that, and if you can get the turnaround times under control, you will expand your lead. You'll take it at the expense of SGC and BGS, who's got their problems. They got their own stuff to deal with.
Yep.
You could own this space completely in short order.
Yeah, we won't go into that topic of conversation. That's a hobby pet peeve, but that's on the manufacturer to ever have stickers on extremely high end product. There should not be a sticker thing. And yes, Carlos, you've had conversations with Carvin. There's always reasons behind a lot of that, but at the same time, as a collector, it's hard to swallow something like that.
No, Carvin, the thing is, Carvin is in agreement with that general premise. The problem they ran into is that for some of these products, and some of it has to go on the athletes and the agents as well, because if some of them would sign on time, some of that stuff wouldn't, so it becomes like, okay, do you release the card or not? Or do you make it a redemption? Because people love those. So, and then sometimes if the athlete even keeps stalling beyond that, it's like, oh, by the way, that redemption, never mind. Because it could be worse. You could get a redemption. I did it in one of my mail days. It was a random, right around Christmas. I think it was Boxing Day or Christmas Day or somewhere around that. I got a package from Irving, Texas. And I was trying to figure out, like, who the hell would send me something from Irving, Texas?
Panini.
Exactly. But it had been 2 years since I redeemed that redemption. I went back and found the video when I pulled the redemption card, and I redeemed it right at that time. It took them 2 years to provide me the vaunted Kiki QT autograph Prism card. And I went and looked it up on eBay. A whopping $5 if I'm lucky. But the good news is they sent it through FedEx from Irving, Texas to get it to me. And then I saw the thing in there and it was like delivered. And I was at my family's house for Christmas. And I was like, why? Or it was the day after Christmas and I go, why? And I was like, well, I better go get it because they're dumb enough. It was snowing. Like they're dumb enough to leave the envelope out in the air. Well, it was, and they delivered it to the wrong house, to the wrong door. They put it on the neighbor's thing. I found it on the ground while it was snowing. And I was able to grab the envelope. I opened it up, and my dad just looked at it. He goes, they sent you one card, and they sent it by FedEx. And I go, yep, Panini. For a $5 card that took them 2 years to deliver on. And I had literally pressed the button on Panini like a year ago. I said, guys, if you can't produce it, give me something else. Replace it. I wish they had replaced it. I don't need a Kiki QT Prism card. What am I going to do with that?
Yeah, it's not worth the listing to try and get rid of it. Included in a freebie pile.
Well, it's gonna. If somebody buys something from me on eBay, here you go. You get this. Enjoy.
I almost don't want to touch this one that you have up on the screen right now, Dave, because that has been a huge trend as of late.
Mm-hmm.
And I can only speak for a few that I've come across because my searches are a lot more limited than yours per se. So I'll kind of punt it to you to see if you can, if you've noticed it elsewhere. It's not even PSA 10 question mark. It's straight PSA 10, as in like the card is a PSA 10 without being in a holder.
Yeah, and it's dumb. I know it's the keyword. It's spamming basically. Where it's like, no, it's not a PSA 10 unless it's in a PSA 10 holder. But you're gonna get more eyes, especially in the new blood, as it were. Seeing that, and again, they watch their speculation videos and their hype men, and they'll probably jump on it because, again, the hype men and the investors, like the superstars, aren't going out and saying, hey, don't buy into the bullshit. You want a PSA 10, buy an actual PSA 10, because every raw card, even if it's pack pulled fresh, it's not a guaranteed PSA 10.
Yep.
So I hate it, but that's going to be here to stay. It's until if the time comes when the market absolutely shits itself and it's done and it hits that deep valley, which I don't think it will for quite some time, if ever again, because there's just too much momentum.
There's too much money right now.
For that too. Even if you have people that fall by the wayside, there'll either be people that come in or people from the back will come towards the front with their money. And again, that's not going to change. I hope one day it won't be like all this stuff. PSA 10 Hall of Fame, super rare gem mint, whatever. And I mean, you're looking like, well, where the hell's the player? I mean, I don't even know what the hell I'm fucking buying. It'll just be a bunch of cartoon blurbs and pow, bam, kaboom. And that's, yeah. It's like, I want to see something here. I mean,
Carlos has got the look on his face.
There are some thoughts I could give on that, but I'll give you the short version. The thing is, I do think the market will keep going for a while, but it's what I said before, though. There's going to be a segment of the market that will not be impacted that much. Like we talked about it before. Like there's stuff that definitely is like nuts. I'm kind of the mind state where I'm kind of taking advantage of it. Like the PSA 10 Medano rookie. I've got 12 copies of that Medano rookie. I have one PSA 10, but I've had like 4 or 5 of them through my hands over the years. And I'm sitting there like, if you guys want to pay $200 for this, you can have it. I went on eBay and I bought a PSA 9 for like $20, and I was like, I'll keep the 9 and I'll sell the 10. Y'all can have it. It's like, by all means. It's like, but Carlos, wouldn't you want the 10? It's like, it's a mint card. What do I care? Got 10 more in the box. By the way, out of those 10 in the box, all those 10s that I used to have, I submitted them all myself. There's a couple more in the box that could probably be 10s if I submitted them now. So it's like, is it that rare a card? It's never been rare.
No.
And if I put in #invest in the title, $500.
Yep.
We know the magic words, #invest, are key. That's why that wasn't included in that list. But #invest, guys, invest! Exclamation point.
And speaking of #invest, I don't know if anybody's noticed, we're missing a key component of our normal audience.
Yeah, where's Paul?
We are missing Paul.
Somewhere off in the distance, he's like, wait a minute, I'm needed. Someone said #invest.
Let's just hope that all is well with Paul.
Absolutely. I'm getting concerned.
Because he's usually waiting on us and always the first to comment. And so
Paul's probably still resting from Friday.
Yeah, he was there almost the whole time too.
I wouldn't blame him. I would not blame him.
Yeah, because I think he tapped out about 45 minutes
Yeah.
early.
Yeah.
But he was there the whole time up to then. So
Yeah. Now we always appreciate Paul. He's very much a supporter of the channels.
absolutely. No, and Ed, I'll kind of chime in on that. You know, let's be realistic. It's one of those in which I'm not going to create speculation because, as you had stated, it's your opinion, and to a certain degree, I would agree with that opinion that, you know, there are certain cards that, quote unquote, need to be protected just because of the overall overreaching amounts of money that some of those cards can produce in the event of sales. I think at some point in time, we're going to see Brady breaking some of the records as it pertains to sales.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it's going to be one of those that I think it's going to happen. Is it going to happen this year? If he wins a 7th Super Bowl, it's a good possibility. That would be the best time, if ever, to try and unload something if you had it and take advantage of the situation. But I would venture to say that they're, I don't want to call them grails, but, you know, highly sought after cards, highly collectible. I don't even want to use the term valuable, in which I could see there's a lot more scrutiny that could go in evaluating some of those than others. Because when you're talking, and I'm just spitballing numbers here, so somebody can definitely correct me. But if you look at a PSA 9, for instance, SP Authentic, that sells for $5,000, let's say. Like I said, I'm just throwing out numbers here. I'm probably way off. And a PSA 10 selling for an upwards of, 50, 60. That's a huge difference between the two. Huge.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, we know your reasons, Bob, which perfectly understandable.
So there's two real quick things that I want to play off of what you just said, Steve. That when you were answering that, there were two things I was thinking. The first one is something good that maybe people should remember. PSA is in this interesting spot. Now, a lot of people don't think of it this way. PSA, to a certain degree, in the hobby, can actually print money for people. You can take a card, and I'll use that Medano as an example right now. That Medano card, I bought all my copies raw for like $4, $3, $2 all day long years ago. Even the ones that I got graded that were PSA 10s. Some of them have sold for upwards of $200, $250, almost $300. If you can turn $4 into $200, that's basically manufacturing money out of the air. You haven't done anything other than put it in a fancy holder. To a certain degree, PSA is supposed to be unbiased. They're not supposed to care what it is. They're not supposed to. But it's very difficult when you can take a card that maybe has some value And that's at the low end. But imagine something at the high end, a card that's $500 or $1,000 that becomes $10,000, $15,000, $20,000, or a card that is probably valuable and becomes $1 million. Imagine if you could manufacture $1 million with one opinion.
Mhm.
How much power do you have? It's very difficult. So for some of them, I won't say it's necessarily a good thing, but for some of them in their mind, they're like, if we grade a couple of more PSA 10s, this $1 million card is not $1 million card anymore. We literally taken money out of somebody's pocket. So we can be a king maker or a king breaker.
Mhm.
That much power is in one person's hands. The pop of 10 is different than a pop of 15 or 20 for some of these grail level cards. That's a huge difference. So you can make fortunes or lose fortunes on paper for people just by putting one grade versus another. It's just something to think about. That's a lot of power in somebody's hands.
No, and that's valid.
Yeah.
And that's valid. No, absolutely.
And they're supposed to be unbiased. And it's very difficult to imagine that they wouldn't struggle with the idea that, like, yeah, if I make a certain decision, there's $1 million card. If I make a different decision, it's a $200,000 card. It's a huge delta. And no matter what happens, I don't get a penny of it, but like I can make that decision.
Mhm.
It's kind of tricky. It makes it kind of interesting. So that was the first thread that I thought of. And then the second thread that I thought of is, as pertains to some of those grail level cards, we still got that money getting pumped into it. We'll kind of see what happens. Brady is going to be an interesting litmus case. We talked about it already on the podcast, Steve. I think he's a decent above average quarterback. In the top 200 or 300 of this generation, probably, or maybe guys named Tom. Maybe in the top 50 guys named Tom in football, probably, maybe. But
Perhaps.
I can only hope that if the Packers can't beat the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, at least they have the decency to honor us by injuring this man permanently. Put this man out. Just get it done. Win or lose, just take this man out. I don't care. Enough. I've had enough. Just thought I'd throw that out. No bias at all. Just saying. Completely unbiased. My conscience is clear, Steve. My conscience is clear. Now, mind you, my conscience shouldn't be the guide we go by, but still, it's clear. The point is that it's clear.
And for Ty, I would say no. It may be a grail, but the Mantle rookie, that was something everybody, and again, it may change slightly over the years depending on how the folks that die off were in that era of collecting, came back and bought their mantles or whatever they did, how history portrays him down the road. I just don't think it'll ever be as cherished and looked at that on that level, because the Mantle rookie, even the 52 tops, which isn't his rookie, it was something every kid that had a nickel or 20 cents or 10 cents, whatever the packs were, and they pulled it, you could obtain it. It wasn't scarce. And it's such a piece of Americana ingrained into the hobby. And it's not even just sports collecting. I mean, it's into like legit sports. Then you have the Yankees. Well, yeah, the Patriots had their dynasty run. The Yankees, that's the evil empire. Patriots came up as like the evil empire in the 2000s, but at the same time, the Yankees have been that for a number of decades, and it's like you either love them or you hate them. There's no in between. There's no fence sitting with them. Yeah. So I'd say it might be in the hobby pertaining to cards, possibly one day, but I don't see it. I see Mantle always having, no matter what championships and accolades, apples to oranges. I think the Mantle will always hold the distinction above Brady. I could be wrong. I've been wrong a third of a time, possibly two before. So
one other thing I'll add. So Dave hit on a lot of the good key points because a lot of those are true. The other thing is that this next Patriots era could very well undo. So the Patriots themselves don't have any prestige. Brady
Mhm.
himself has some prestige. Belichick has some prestige. The franchise, though, doesn't have prestige. They've had an era here
Mhm.
that we've been living in, so we're aware of it right now. But the Yankees had the 20s. Babe Ruth, Lou Gehrig. It rolled into the 30s. Joe DiMaggio took over. Then it rolled into the 40s where, Yogi Berra came on. And then by the early 50s, Mantle showed up. Well, that carried them through to the 1960s. That's decades. That's
Mhm.
multiple generations of superstar level players that carried the brand. They have the rivalry with the Red Sox. They've got all these things kind of going for them that lasted long enough. Now, and even to today where the Yankees are still, and the Yankees don't win all the time. One of the funny things is this is how successful the Yankee brand was. If you really go back at the history of the Yankees, going back to the 20s, after about the mid 1960s, the Yankees basically became irrelevant until the late 1970s. But then if you really do the math, the end of the dynastic Yankees happened in the beginning of the 60s. That was the very end of when Mantle was at his peak. He played until the end of the 60s, but that team was an also ran for most of the rest of the decade. So the 60s, most of the 60s, nothing was happening for them. Most of the 70s, nothing was happening for them until the end. They won back-to-back. Reggie Jackson, Thurman Munson, that's those teams, Ron Guidry. So great teams. But here's the thing. So 2 championships since the early 1960s. Keep going. They don't win again until 96. Then they have that mini dynastic run, 96, and then 3 in a row. And then they win, I think they win 5 in that era because of 2009. Well, it's like, if that's 70 in about 70 years, 60 years. That's actually not that impressive. It's more than most franchises, but if you actually compare it to the earlier part, the Ruth and the DiMaggio and all that era, they got 27 championships. Yeah, they won 20 of them before 1965. Since 1965, they won 7. Most of us weren't alive in 1965. It's been a while. It's still good. Like, it's still 7 championships. It's still impressive, but it's not the same. It's 2 completely different era of Yankees teams.
Mhm.
But they've been able to hold that mystique, even though 27 champions. Yeah, but you guys really aren't associated to the earlier section of it when they were reeling off those championships every decade, multiple titles per decade, and consistently there. And when they didn't win, they were in the World Series.
Yeah.
So it's not the same. So now the Patriots have had their 20-year run. If the Patriots go back to doing nothing, the Patriots did nothing until this era. And if they go back to doing nothing, it'll be like a 20-year blip on the radar.
Mhm.
Hey, good for you guys. Now you're basically the Cleveland Browns. Good job. Congratulations. So it could be different. And Brady's legacy is always going to be tied to Belichick's, and Belichick's always got a little bit of that shadiness going on. So it's like, yeah, you won. And it was the argument I made with Steve on the show. It's like, yeah, I can't take away 6 Super Bowls, but some of them are a little iffy. None of them were like that definitive, like, hey, you did it. Even this past week when they beat the Saints. Was I impressed? Not really. Took 4 turnovers by the Saints. It took Drew Brees being noodle arm. Drew Brees retired before the game. He just didn't tell anybody. That's what it looked like. So it was like, and still, the Saints were in the game. Had they not turned the ball over 4 times, I don't think Tampa wins.
Yep.
So it's like, am I impressed? Not really. And I'm not promising the Packers will beat them. Tampa could very well beat them because the matchup is a little bit more favorable for Tampa, in my opinion. I think it's more favorable. But if they manage to turn around, let's put it this way. If the Packers put a stomping on them, if they happen to figure it out and reverse the whole thing, and they put a stomping on them. So now what do you think? Was this your success or failure? What was it? That team was super talented. They scraped by to beat Washington. It wasn't that impressive. And Washington was like...
Mediocre.
Yeah, mediocre at best. The Saints were diminished. They kind of barely scraped by to beat them. That wasn't that impressive. If they don't get to the Super Bowl, it's like, what does that look like? And if they get to the Super Bowl and then get whopped by Kansas City or whatever, thanks for coming out. Appreciate you hanging out. We'll see. Like, anything can happen this year. Like, I could make the pitch that they win too, but I just haven't seen anything up to this point that has impressed me. This season adds to his legacy on paper because of the results, but I've been watching how you've been getting those results. It's like, okay, it's fine. I'll give you a C+ if you want. It's about the best I can do so far. You got to show me more.
Yeah, it'll be interesting, to say the least. My guess it's going to be, well, I'm calling Green Bay Buffalo. And the only reason why I say Buffalo is it's all going to be dependent on if Mahomes plays first and foremost. But at the same time, Allen is a very mobile quarterback in himself and can make plays. He's not Mahomes, but he can still make plays. And he's still, I don't know, he's got the nothing can hurt me mentality. So it's just the kid's tough. And he's grown in the years that he's been in the league. But he doesn't, I guess, have the visibility of Mahomes does, because Mahomes is super talented. I'm not going to take away from Mahomes. The kid is super talented. But, if Buffalo's defense can play and keep them in it, I think Buffalo has a shot. That's just me.
I'm guessing they've got more than a shot. I'm picking them. If I had money to put on someone, I'd put it on Buffalo. Even with Mahomes playing, I think the special teams, which is underrated for Buffalo, that kicker, Tyler Bass, has been a godsend for them. He has got a cannon for a leg. The defense has been a ball hawk type defense, but it doesn't have the big names. And the offense, other than the running game, that seems to be the general trend in today's NFL. There aren't Henry is in a class of his own right now, but you don't have, when you look at the stats at the end of the year, you don't have 10, 12, 14 backs that are at the 1,200-yard mark and above. It's not like it used to be 15, 20 years ago when 1,000 yards was like, oh, it's good, but you're like 12th, 18th, 20th on the list of overall, even in your like conference. So Diggs has been insane. The Davis from UCF has been good. The tight ends have been good. It just depends on if Allen can have time. He can make things happen. He's got a cannon for an arm, and then weather. That's always going to be the other one. It's going to be in Kansas City, so it's the end of January. You don't know what it's going to be, just like up in Green Bay.
Yeah, but Buffalo's used to it, though.
Oh, I know. I'm aware, but
I'll be honest with you. All the things you've been saying, Dave, are part of the reason I've been struggling to figure out what I want to do with the Josh Allen prism. I'm like, if they go to the Super Bowl, I can literally just get cash directly from Tijuana. Just leave it in Tijuana and ship it over. Send over the bag of cash. Otherwise, it's like, but it's been a great season for him no matter what. It's funny because it's house money for me. Like, I literally pulled it from a pack. So it's like, to me, and I got most of my value out of the box already years ago. So it's like, so it's just been sitting there going like, okay, what do I do with it? I wish that I had gotten it graded because it would make my life a little bit easier. It'd be like, okay, one less thing to concern myself with. Because as a raw card, you always got that little bit of risk, because it's like, okay, you try to sell it now, and then it doesn't work out, and the value drops, and then you get the return. Mm-hmm. That's kind of the wrinkle that gives it a little bit, that makes it a little problematic. Otherwise, it'd be like, all right, I'll put it up on eBay because right now it's going for upwards of 200 and change just for the raw card. So considering it's worth almost nothing to me, it's like, okay, well, that's free money in my pocket. I can use it to pay my ComC, bill. Jesus.
Compensate for the customs bill.
Exactly. It's like, Josh Allen, you're paying for the customs.
At the end of the day, though, I'm hoping for good games. That I was looking forward to the Tampa New Orleans game. I mean, we touched on it during the show, Carlos, yep. And
it wasn't.
It was hard to watch. I mean, it was not what I was expecting it to be by any stretch of the imagination. And you the fact that yes, Tampa won. Mm-hmm. New Orleans had 4 turnovers. Mm-hmm. Tampa didn't do much with those turnovers.
Well, I think they scored on 3 of them. They converted 3 of them into points because the last one they did nothing with. It was just the end of the game, basically. But I think 3 of them turned into points.
Were they field goals or were they touchdowns?
At least one of them was a touchdown because one of them they ran it back to like the 5. So that was
Yeah,
like not
and see, I remember that one.
Yeah, so that was one of the turnovers. So that was 7 points right there.
But it's you want to capitalize even more by scoring touchdowns when you have a turnover, because that really changes the dynamic and puts the opposing offense on the offensive, of throwing the ball and everything else, which then of course can potentially cause additional turnovers.
A lot of what I saw was offensive, so I agree with that. That's what you meant, I mean, right? A lot of what I saw was offensive. Yeah. I was on StreamYard with my buddy who was a Saints fan, and it took a little bit of the joy out of the endless trolling that I gave him. Is that he was resigned to his fate by like a little after halftime. I'm like, oh, this just ruins the fun for me. That you have realized how hopeless your situation is and how pathetically worthless your franchise is. And I also discredit you, and I've decided you no longer have a Super Bowl. I am taking it. I'm impeaching it like Bob Lewis. Gone. Never happened. Your franchise has won nothing. Do not pass go. Do not collect $200. Cancel your franchise. We're done with you.
Well, and then the question becomes: is it actually going to become Jameis Winston's team, or are they going to?
He's the only one who made a decent throw.
I know.
On the team.
I know.
I was like, for God's sake, put Jameis Winston. I was watching. I was like, at least Jameis Winston made a throw.
Yep.
Yeah.
Put in the guy who made a throw. What the hell? Give it a shot. At least to make this interesting. Heaven forbid. Maybe the revenge angle could have worked for one game.
Yep.
I don't know.
And that was a nice pass, man.
It was a good design. It was a well-designed play, and he hit. And again, it was wide open, but he did hit him. He did hit him right in stride. Like it was a great throw. Maybe the LASIK worked.
Only $100 on beer. Is that it? To me, that's slacking. Because that's only 9 beers, right? Because they're $11 a pop.
Well, that was always the joke when we would watch games at the Dome in Toronto. It's like $100 on beer. So what did you do when you wanted your third beer? That's unfortunate.
Yeah, that's ridiculous. The prices that they can charge on those.
It's super expensive.
Well, and one thing I'm not going to turn away a free ticket to go to Jerry World and watch the Cowboys, even though I hate the team. There's nothing. Well, okay, I can't say there's nothing better than going and seeing an NFL game, but because others may disagree. But it's one of those experiences that, as an NFL fan, regardless of the team, it's still at the top of most people's list. And what sucks is the only beer you can get is Miller Lite, and I hate fucking Miller Lite. So granted, yes, I drink light beer, but Miller Lite tastes like piss water. I mean, it's horrendous. I just in paying $9-10, and it's been a couple of years since I've been now, but to pay $9 or $10 for a beer you can't really stand, that sucks.
Well, that was the only advantage of doing that tourist tour bus thing, is that because they did included being in the box as part of the package, we had decent beer selection, so you were able to get a bunch of different stuff. You weren't stuck on just the one thing. They were like, okay, you can have this, you can have this, you can have this. Or they could have given you mixed drinks. Like, you had choices. You actually could have been like, well, what do you want?
Well, I did have a margarita. They did have a frozen margarita machine that was, I think the person who was adding the tequila got a little giving.
Okay.
So I will say that, you pay, I think it was $16 or $17, but it was in one of those big old tall, freaking plastic mug things.
Okay.
Which, is almost nothing when you're thinking of liquid. And I'm going, okay, I'm going to spend this kind of money, and I'm not even going to be able to taste the tequila. So what the hell am I drinking? A slushie? And after the first couple drinks, it's like, you know what? I'll give him credit. I could actually taste the tequila in it. So it was worth the expense.
And this Thai Heineken sucks. It is fucking vomit. I hate it.
And since he brought up Ed, since Ed, because I mentioned this on Carlos's podcast, because I don't even know how the hell we got on the subject of beer. other than the fact of you cringing at your, other than you cringing on the first beer that you were, drinking that night.
It was. I was like, I told my buddy after, it's like, I appreciate the thought, but let's stick with the stout. The stout was good. The rest was a little bit in decreasing quality as we went along.
But I happened to catch an article, Ed, because I tried to convince you for reasons to ship a certain kind of beer to Texas, but that's no longer going to be required because sometime later this year, Yingling is coming to Texas. So I get to try it for the first time. So I'm looking forward to it.
Nice.
You've had it, haven't you, Dave?
I have not.
Oh.
We've had Spotted Cow. That's my regional one. That's only in Wisconsin.
I was gonna say that's the Scotty Tradition special right there.
It is.
Yeah, that's his deal. He's always got the Spotted Cow.
Is
it any good? Is it any good?
It's not bad. I'm not a big beer guy. I like hard liquor and then the foo-foo drinks with the fruit. I like that.
It's like foo-foo drinks with the fruit. It's like with the alcohol. Yeah. There's alcohol in it sometimes.
Once in a while.
Yeah, for change of pace,
Yeah, so they say.
Yeah.
Allegedly.
What you're actually ordering is like a fruit punch.
Yeah, that's fair.
So yeah, I'm looking forward to trying it. I think they said either the spring or the fall of this year, we should start seeing it. I had to do my research and find out if they're actually going to be doing it in stores, like I can go pick up a 6-pack type situation, or if it's only going to be like served in restaurants or bars or whatnot. So I'll be doing more research.
The moonshine hits hard. I'll leave it at that.
Is it flavored?
No.
You can actually buy flavored moonshine now these days, which just blows my mind.
It also kind of defeats the point. Like moonshine is basically just, it is what it is.
Yeah. It's not meant to taste like orange or fucking apple or whatever.
Sure it is. It's supposed to take away some of the bite. Not quite sure how that works. I've never tried any of it, to be brutally honest. I don't care to.
What I appreciate is how you're shaking your head while at the same time leading previously with it's like, all right, it's like the fruit flavor drink. It's like, so what? I was like, there's an inconsistency here, Dave. I'm just saying. It's like,
yeah, you don't know that about me yet? I mean,
yeah, I know.
No, there's here we have Leinenkugels. That's like our sort of Yingling regional beer. They've got a ton of flavors too. I mean,
I've tried some of that.
And there's like the summer shandy, which is it's a good one where it doesn't taste. I'm not a big fan of the beer taste. I just don't like and can't stomach that taste. Yeah. It for whatever reason, it's even when I have as a youth, when I turned 21 and had my first beer, the Killian's Irish Red, that was what I enjoyed.
Okay.
So, I mean, it everybody'd have like the horse piss fucking beast, the Milwaukee's best ice or whatever, Schlitz or some just garbage beer because it was cheap. And that stuff was just trash. And again, some of these people that I've graduated with still are on that. I'm like, there's a couple other brands out there. I mean, this is $12 a case. You can get that for $13. I don't want to spend the extra $1.
Well, that's one area where a lot of the a lot of problems are caused where stateside. Sometimes you guys will have certain areas that like do not have the beer selection. Because in university we had, it was literally $1 a beer. It was for the case. You'd be $1 a beer for the case. But it was actually pretty decent beer for it because the manufacturer actually made good beer. So it just was priced affordably because they're like, well, we can sell more cases. We know these students will buy it. And a buck of beer, they'll definitely buy it. So don't get the garbage beer. Like some of them will then, they'll like, all right, well, I'll pay the extra because I don't want to drink the garbage, especially when I'm surrounded by so many options.
Mm-hmm.
Because we had so many options. Like, look, if your beer's garbage, we're not drinking it, even if it's cheap. There are limits. Now, not for everybody. One of my buddies who has in a band, they literally got a keg for like a kegger, and it was expired beer. And I was like, really? To save a little money, you got so number one, and it was a brand called Wellingtons, which was already garbage. Regular Wellingtons is garbage. It's heinous. And we didn't know. And I was sitting there and I started to drink it. I was like, oh dear God, even for Wellingtons, this is terrible. What is this garbage? And he goes, well, it might be expired. We got to let you got expired Wellingtons? It's like, are you trying to murder everyone? They do have prisons in Guelph.
The worst thing I ever remember drinking growing up was Mad Dog 2020.
Okay.
That's like drinking flavored rubbing alcohol.
Nice. Well, my indicator when that happened was basically because my buddy was with me when we went to that kegger, and at that time he had an iron stomach, so he could drink turpentine probably, and it just drink it. It wouldn't matter. I think he got through one cup and he goes, I can't. And I'm like, you can't drink it? We're done here. Run away.
Yeah, there's certain times and instances in which saving money is not always in your best interest.
No, it was one of those things. I was literally like, guys, I don't care how much you paid for this. If you had just told me that you were this hard up for cash, I would have given you like $100 and you could have got an actual cake. Right. It's not like I'm flush with cash, but for God's sake, don't do this. This is an affront to my sensibilities.
Yeah, that's almost insulting to the people that they invited.
It was. It's like, how little do you think of us?
I'm trying to think what else we had yet. There's like the pucker, or like we had schnapps. I'm going back to like when I turned 21 days.
20 years ago.
Yeah. The Schlitz, and then like the Minnesota Brew, that was like the absolute lowest rung of the ladder. That was probably the rung that was underground.
Nice.
Plink, which a couple of guys that are bought into the grocery store I work at, their dad died, what would it have been, a couple of years ago, 2 or 3 years ago. And so his daughter had like this bottle of Plink and was like handing out shots or just, hey, take a bump or whatever for him. I'm like, okay. I'm like, this is literally turpentine. Where did you get this from? How can you have this marketed as an alcoholic beverage when it tastes nothing like alcohol? It is paint thinner. Go get. And I'm just like, and there's the old librarian up here that swore by that stuff. He's like, I gotta get a case of Plink, and I'm like, what? Did you really hate yourself that much? Your taste buds just they revolt all day, and you're like, you know what? Fuck you, taste buds. I'm gonna kill you with Plink. Like what? Like okay, if it's $4 a bottle or whatever, I guess. That's right in the wheelhouse, the price point that matters. But there's the wine stuff. I don't like wine. I've tried that, and it just doesn't do anything for me. Or like champagne, that's too fancy. And then the beer. Most beers, the lighter stuff, I'm not a huge fan of. The darker stuff, I'll try, just because I think I like that more. With the Killians, again, from way back when I first had my beer at 21.
I think the problem that I had with that first beer that Steve was referencing earlier is that it did kind of taste like wine. And I used to sell wine, just for the record, as I actually used to sell wine for a living for a stretch of time there. And it was reminding me of that. And I was never a fan. I was a good salesman for wine. I just didn't like it. It was never my flavor. But the fact that I could get almost immediately the smell of it and just the immediate taste of it that I got out of it, I'm like, no, why? Like, no. And so it made it a struggle. I think if anybody goes back, I swear it took me at least an hour to get through that can. I was like, I can't, I can't drink this quickly. It's killing me. I was struggling real hard.
Well, if I'm not mistaken, I think after every drink you had a chaser of water to go behind it.
I had to. Like, I was like, all right, look, I'm not wasting it. I'm not gonna throw it away, but like, I wanted to. But no, life's too short to settle for really bad beer, especially when you've had decent beer, good beer over time, and once you know what your palate is, you know kind of where your area is, your zone. So you find certain things. It's still good to explore a little bit though, but you'll find the categories that you like more. You kind of gravitate towards those.
Well, and when I was up in Canada, it was Sapporo or Big Rig.
Yeah.
It didn't matter where we went. That's what I was drinking. And I have to say, I tried my first Moscow Mule.
Okay.
And I couldn't finish it.
Okay.
That ginger beer, that's some nasty shit.
Yeah.
I mean, so there was two of us there from the States, and then we had somebody from the UK and one from was he from Sweden? From Sweden.
Okay.
And no, Sweden or Switzerland, one of the two. And we had gone out to dinner, and the plan was we'd go out to dinner. One person would buy the first round, and then the next place we went, somebody would buy the next round, that type situation. And, while we were out to dinner, we ended up having 2 drinks. Well, we all had like 3 or 4 drinks, but only one person picked up 1 round of certain things. And one of them happened to be a Moscow Mule. And the place that we ate actually did them in the copper mugs, which is the way they're supposed to be served.
Yeah.
Not all places do that.
That's cool.
So it was a legitimate one. And that was the reason why he ordered it, because he loves them, but only in the copper mugs.
Yep.
And I tried to power through it. I tried, because it was one of those in which somebody buys a round, you do what I couldn't do it. I think I left a quarter of it, and I was like, okay, who wants the rest of this? No, I can't. I can't do it.
Unfortunately, you can't do it anymore. One of the things that because it was university, and a lot of us didn't have a lot of money, but it was a university town, so the bars understood how to cater and how to make sure you could sell. So the thing that a lot of us would do is they'd get a group of us together, and you could buy pitchers. Mm-hmm. So what would happen is now the good thing is the pitchers were reasonably priced. It was like $20 a pitcher. So what would happen is if you get a group of like 8 or 9 people, what would happen is everybody would just be in for one pitcher. Well, you got 8 or 9 pitchers. Some people drink more, some people drink less. You're good to go. You're covered no matter what. And then you were only in for the $20 for the night. So it was pretty good. Even if you were a heavier drinker, you were covered. If you were a lighter drinker, you'd still chip in, your one pitcher like everybody else, but it kept it kind of even, and nobody had to spend too much, and it kept us in the game.
Right.
Yeah. So you had a full night. So it was actually very good. And they were smart to price it at a point where it wasn't like out of reach.
Right. Yeah, actually, so a little history lesson on Steve here. I should say Steven, since, that is my name, but everybody calls me Steve. So I am of Czech descent. So when I was in Canada, and that night we decided to go bar hopping after we went and ate dinner.
As you do.
And it's at where we ended up going bar hopping is actually at it was the mall or something, but a bunch of restaurants, bars, that type of stuff. And we went to, I think it's called the Beer House, but it's spelled Haus, but it's the Beer House.
Oh, so Haus or House, something like that. Yeah.
and it was being of Czech descent, never having a Czech beer, I actually got to experience a Czech beer. Nice. And I have to say, it was pretty damn good. It strong, very strong.
It should be, yes.
But great flavor. It was very good. And of course, I don't remember the freaking name of it. Not that I could probably get it here anyways. But it was one of those of which, I travel in the States. I stick to what I know. And, I even alluded to this when the first night I got to Canada, we went to a steakhouse, and come to find out the owner of the steakhouse actually was from like Texas.
Okay.
And steak was all right. I've had better here locally at, cheaper steak joints, but I stuck to what I knew best. I ordered a Bud Light. They didn't have Coors Light, so I drank Bud Light. I had two. But from then on, it was like, okay, I'm in Canada. I have to start, testing the waters with everything else, in which I started doing. And, the hotel, I want to say they had either Bud Light or Coors Light, but, everybody else was drinking local brews. So it's like I started testing them and stuck on the two. And just alternated between both of them because I didn't want to just stagnate on one. So I alternated every night.
But let me ask you a question since you brought it up. What is the deal with the light beers in a lot of places? Because I hear a lot of folks. I'll talk to a lot of folks stateside, and the light beer is very much the common choice for a lot of folks. Not everyone, but for quite a bit for a lot of folks. Because around Canada, like there are people who will get light beer, but a lot of times it's like, what's the point? Just get the beer.
Mine's a taste preference.
Okay. Do you find that much of like Bud Light? Do you find that much of a taste difference for you versus like a regular Budweiser?
Yes.
Okay. So you prefer the lighter version?
Yes.
Okay. Interesting.
Yep.
Yeah. Because when I go say when we went to like a Bills game or whatever, we'd be there and it'd be like, if you're gonna go, I told my buddy, it's like, if you're gonna get the Budweiser, just get the regular one, because it's like, I've always thought it interesting because it's like, well, if you're gonna get light beer, my light beer of choice is Aquafina. That's a good
Water.
light beer. Yeah, that's my light beer of choice when I like to go light. It's good for hydration. You can drink as much as you want. You won't get drunk. But it's light beer. It's basically taste wise about the same.
Mine's the aftertaste.
That I could accept as a valid counter.
It's one of those in which I have my preference. I prefer Coors Light.
Yeah.
I will drink Bud Light because they are comparable.
Sure.
But if I go to a friend's house or whatever and somebody says, "Hey, you want a beer?" I don't give a shit what it is. I'm going to drink it.
It can be expired Wellingtons. Friends don't let friends have expired Wellingtons ever.
If they've only got Corona, then I'll drink a Corona. But right. I prefer my Corona with lime, and most people do. But, from that perspective, I'm not going to turn down a free beer. I'm not, as long as it's not expired. Mm-hmm. But at the same time, if it tastes like ass, I'm going to sit there and be like, hey, dude, this tastes like ass. Mm-hmm. I'm not going to, not express my opinion. I'll power through it and pretty much say, okay, don't offer me one of these again because this is bad.
Right. I like Ty's comment though. It's like, Ty, that's all well and good, but I could drink a gallon of tap water in 2 hours too. What's your point? Like, I don't follow you. It's like, am I supposed to be impressed? Like, I'm sorry.
Yeah, Trista loves this Moscow Mule. She had me try one in the copper little goblet, and I'm like, this is fucking hideous.
Yeah, that ginger beer is rough.
And that's what she said. She's like, ginger beer. I'm like, what the fuck is ginger beer? Fuck that.
An abomination against the Lord, Dave. and I'm not even a religious man, but I'm willing to concede that is an abomination against the Lord.
Like, that is idiots. Oh, wait. The one thing I was surprised with, and again, I think it's been more popular the last 5 years or so, Fireball. I'm not a cinnamon fan at all.
Okay.
I mean, candy wise, the only thing I'll have is like a stick of Big Red gum. I don't even know if they make that anymore, but that's about the extent of cinnamon for me. But for my brother's bachelor party, they had it at the club thing that we went to, and it wasn't. I was thinking like a little shot glass of it or whatever. No, it was like a fucking big little cup thing. I'm like,
Because
so
Fireball is super cheap. It's like it's
Yeah.
literally like I want to get drunk and I hate myself.
Yeah.
That Fireball is I hate myself enough to do this to myself in a bottle.
You can buy that stuff by the tub at the liquor store in little shot
Yep.
bottles,
like the travelers.
and for like you get 20 for 20, 10 for. I mean, they're $1. I mean, they're cheap, cheap.
Yeah, I've got a few of those. My one of the checkouts that works at the store will bring in some every once and again because she knows how horseshit it is because she's worked there for close to 40 years. And she's like, we all need something to get through the day. Yeah. It's like, it's going to take a lot more than that. So last summer was, I think, the first time I actually bumped into one and I'm like, I need this. I don't want to hear stories. I don't want to hear people complain. Took that and I'm like, that tasted good.
The other thing for Bob's reference there as well is like, no, we got the ginger beer reference a little bit earlier too. Dave
Yep.
did mention it a little bit before the one you heard. So we
No, that
beat
was
it a little bit.
that was me.
Yeah. Yeah, we did get the reference in there. We definitely got the reference in there.
Check your bingo cards.
Correct.
Yeah, Paul's not around to announce that. So.
I was gonna say, like, this is unfortunate. Hope all is well, Paul. Hopefully you catch it on the replay or something. Hope all is well.
Yes, absolutely.
Are the
I'll
Oilers
ping him
playing?
later. I'll be like, Paul, where are you? I need proof of life.
Well, yeah, because usually it's Joe and Paul that typically make mention on Instagram,
That is true. Yeah. That is
and Paul didn't say anything this go round.
I might be busy or something. It happens.
No, absolutely. It's
His
one of
attendance
those.
record is otherwise pristine, so we give him full credit.
Absolutely. It's one of those in which when you're used to seeing somebody and then somebody's not there, you're like, man, I hope everything's okay.
Yep.
Type situation.
Now, if it happens next week, now there's trouble.
I was gonna say,
Yeah.
we're gonna have to send out the search party at that stage.
Absolutely. It's the fact that we care enough to note and mention that, hopefully everything's okay.
Yes, it's like we do pay attention to the audience and who's around.
Absolutely.
This will be a fun one. I'll show this one here. Okay, so do you know what this one is, Dave or Steve? Familiar with these?
That's the MLB Showdown, like 01.
That's right. So the MLB Showdown 01 is actually the Pujols rookie year, and Beckett does recognize this as one of his rookies. This is actually one of the more fun ones. I like this thing. Plus, it's actually a foil with the numbering of that year. I think that's actually one of his more fun rookies. I like that.
Well, then it's not the traditional number 5. That's the spring training.
Yeah, that's the other thing. Yeah, that's right. He's using 68 on the back of that one. So it's kind of cool. It stands out a little bit from the rest of them.
Because I still remember first game was in Colorado because like I said before in one of the podcasts, I had like 40 fantasy teams that year and I think the next year. And so I'm watching and like this guy, Pujols. I'm like, what? PMG?
Yeah, got itself a Brett Hall one. This was one of the ones on ComC. It was available cheap. So the blue ones this year, they did them out of 50.
Okay.
Pretty good. It's a nice card. I like it.
Yeah, those are cheap. I love
There.
it.
Yeah. But that one you get the original design, which is cool.
Mhm.
So you get that along with Brett Hall, Hall of Fame player. Like I was able, I think that was like $12.
Wow.
PMG out of 50. Brett Hall. Sure. $12. I can do that. Yeah. I suppose. I guess.
Decent player.
Yeah, decent.
Adequate.
Accurate.
But seeing Pujols' name on the back of his jersey, I'm just like, oh, it's like a lost Scrabble hand.
Another one stumbled across in the rummage.
Nice.
He doesn't have many rookies either. Good old Ed Reed.
Take care, Joe.
Have a good evening.
Take it easy, Joe.
But
Wait,
then looking
go
at
ahead.
who was up on the fantasy sports thing, he wasn't even on the Yahoo thing yet. Because that was, again, his major league debut. So I'm sitting there, I'm like, well, this is a bummer. And then, of course, then they had like the waiver. Anytime somebody got called up, you were placed on the waivers for 2 days. So if, and it wasn't like you had any record to go off of. So it was basically just whoever picked or whoever got the, would have been probably like the 10th pick or 12th pick in the draft would have got the top waiver claim. And I think I might have got him about half the leagues. So what, 20 of the 40. And he did quite well.
So Vinny was just saying he was talking to Paul last night.
Mm-hmm.
So we'll see. He may have got stuck at work.
That is fair.
I'm just hoping that is the case because, like I always said, it's one of those in which genuine concern.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, we know our audience.
Yeah, the crazy people actually sit through this garbage that we call a podcast.
Yeah.
Yes, I called it garbage. Since, Carlos can talk trash about his stuff, I guess we can talk about our own stuff too.
If I don't, who will? Everyone. Not the point. See, Garrett will learn at some point. That's the reason why you have to be able to be fast. It's like, I didn't even get it. No, I wasn't going to give you a chance.
Yeah.
That's a straight no-go. I will do it. I'll do it properly. I'm a professional. It's fine.
Yep. But on the flip side, as individuals, we have to laugh at ourselves though too in the process on certain things. It's what makes us human. For those who are willing to do so, others refuse to take that as a friendly piece of advice. You got to laugh at yourself from time to time. It's what makes us human.
I also have yet to see the YouTube channel or live stream where there's something not there that needs to be taken that seriously. It's sports cards. It's not that serious, folks.
Damn it, man! You ruined my life, Carlos. How dare you?
I try. I do it again.
Carlos is never allowed on the podcast ever again. He is just blown my dreams out of proportion. That is unacceptable. I don't know what I'm going to do with myself anymore.
Sure.
I hate you, Carlos. Instead of because I'm Carlos, it's because I hate Carlos is the new channel name.
On Facebook, every year for my birthday, there's a picture that I found on a comic strip. The comic strip is called Pearls Before Swine. It's this one where they did. You know what I'm talking about, Dave? So there was a yeah. It's a good comic strip. It's a good comic strip. So there was this series where the guy was talking about a story about Danny Donkey. It's one of the characters in it. So he was doing the thing. Well, I came across it by accident, but when I saw it, I was like, yes, this will be my picture on my Facebook. Every year on my birthday, I put it up on the Facebook as my picture for Facebook. And it's part of the strip. And he goes, and it's one of the things coming over. He goes, hey, we're all picking up $20 for Carlos's gift. And Danny Donkey's like, but I hate Carlos. And that's the bit that I put on the Facebook strip. Every year on my birthday for the last decade running, that has been the picture on my Facebook. He goes, but I hate Carlos. And I'm like, yeah, man, me too. I've been that bastard for closing in on 40 years. He's an asshole.
I love that comic strip. That is Steven Pastis or Pastis or whatever his last name is. It's the best.
But that's what also made it work for me is the fact that it's like, nope, literally this is the perfect panel on this strip for me to use for my birthday every year. My friends do appreciate it. It's an annual tradition. One time I was a little bit late and one of them pinged me and goes, hey, are you changing the profile? I'm like, Jesus, man, calm down. I'll get to it.
So now we have anonymous donations today for the podcast. What's this? I read, Ty? Allegedly.
I was going to say.
No. That, not to jump away from Ty's comment, because there is no anonymous money coming in. There's no tangible money coming in other than PayPal. That's it, and that's nothing to do with the old podcast. I wish it was, but alas.
All right, Dave, if you say so.
No, this says mailed.
I understand, but if we see, on an upcoming podcast, Dave's there just acting all nonchalant, and he's got like the Mr. T chains going on. I'm like, Dave, anything you'd like to discuss or report? No, everything's fine.
Everything is on the up and up.
So yeah, if Steve gets half, then it's $1 bill, and so Dave rip it in half. Remember, Ty, this will not be monetized.
Yet.
That was Carlos. That was not the opinions of Dave or myself.
I didn't hear Dave's. I didn't hear Dave's strong denial. Is all I'm saying, Steve. I heard yours. I didn't hear Dave. Dave's like off screen. He goes, "Nope, I can't be seen right now."
Dave. If you go to the dark side, we're going to have problems.
Don't worry, Dave. The dark side's great. We have candy. It's fine.
Just what he needs. Just what he needs, more candy.
Hey, listen, I'm not here to judge. I didn't say you had to eat the candy. I just said we have it. What you do from then on is your problem. I'm not going to tell you what to do.
I'm gonna have to start wearing overalls as an actual everyday garment of clothing instead of just for humor. I don't want to be known as Haystacks Calhoun of the YouTube world. I mean, that's just... Or they could call me Uncle Elmer.
Well, would that be better or worse than the Roadkill cosplay? Because at least that's a reference.
There's a lot of people who have told me to do that. A lot,
including me, on my show.
I know. He looks a lot different too. He lost a bunch of weight.
Yeah, he does now for sure. I can imagine. I don't think you'd want to stay that size because it's been years since ECW's been off the air. You wouldn't want to stay that size. Those people actually don't do well long term if you don't drop the weight.
Well, even like Vic Grimes too. He's another one that somebody posted up his, because I think it was his birthday yesterday or 2 days ago, and he looks much more physically fit. But then again, when you get thrown off a scaffold by New Jack, and he's on record telling people, "I wanted to kill that motherfucker," it's like that's not a very appealing way to be in a wrestling match of any sort. And then to have the fall he had, that what was it, XPW, one of the XPW matches, that it was.
Yeah, it was. Mm-hmm.
Not a pleasant one. If you look up New Jack versus Vic Grimes, VICGRIMES.
Or the video also known as "Why Would Anyone Wrestle New Jack?"
Well,
anyone.
That, you've got beef with him, and you're in LA, so I'm sure he's got some associates that are going to hook him up with whatever contraband that he can use. And I think he had a taser. So, yeah. But yeah, the big wrestlers lasting a long time don't usually work.
No.
That's not a good, it's a good exit strategy if you want to keep that weight, but the longevity, it doesn't work out too well.
Yeah. Wrestling careers are short enough. You don't need to do more.
No.
Shorten your own lifespan.
Ty, I'll say just one word. Decent.
Fact.
Second that fact. Now, if we can just mark one off the list, Dave.
I was saying Dave seemed to be getting kind of eager. It's like, Dave, I would enjoy the fact that you've actually got the reserve fund to be able to throw it at the appropriate thing. You're actually, it's like the bullets are in the chamber. You're ready to go.
Yep.
But
It's not a bad thing, to be honest. That's not a bad thing.
to see that second card come up and be so excited too. Where I pulled a Vinny, but at least the seller for me, he countered my offer because I did the Vinny because Vinny had said something about he hit
the
like
mirror red. No, he bid on a mirror red and didn't recognize the damage on it. And I was like, hey, you didn't overpay drastically. It's a need. Use it as a placeholder. So you can technically mark it off the checklist, so to speak, but you want to definitely be looking for a replacement type situation. But see, you didn't tell me you put in an offer on that either, Dave. You failed to mention that.
That's where I'm going to message the seller and say thank you for not taking that because I would be ultra pissed off. I would fully honor it, but I'd be a grumbling person because of the offer I put in.
Yeah, because that condition was atrocious, man. And I get it. It's one of those condition sensitive. All those things come into play, but all the damage on that card that would have taken away from the aesthetically pleasing aspect of it. If it was a dinged corner or a rounded corner, okay, different conversation. But that looked like it had gone through a freaking ringer or something. I mean, that was bad. That was bad.
And I offered probably what I would have paid for a mint copy, at least to start off with. So I was super thrilled when the dude countered and said, hey, in the message box, double check if you're cool with the card's condition, hit accept. And I'm just like, what? Oh, fuck.
Well, at least he wasn't a douchebag.
I said they gave you an out, so that was pretty decent of them to do.
I'm very thankful for that because that would have been I'd be trying to kick myself in the nuts, or at least when that card arrived, it would kick me in the nuts probably every day I had it. So that but to see those two pop up within 2.5, 3 weeks, because I think that other one's been up for a little bit, not a long time, but I'm like, you have got to be kidding me.
The thing though is that feels like it's the way this market has been going though. Mm-hmm. Why do you think the end of the year last year was so like grail heavy? It wasn't like I'm sitting there like going, oh, you know what I'd like to do this time? You know what I'd like to do in December, Steve? I'd like to spend some money. I wasn't like, that wasn't like my plan, but I'm sitting there like, oh, for God's sake, this came up and then this one came up and then this. I'm like, guys, can you give me a week? Can you give me 5 days, 3 days, something? Gotta be all at once, really? Like that? Okay.
Well, that's no different. I gave, and I can't remember his name. Carlos, you may remember his name better than I do, but the guy on Instagram who posed the question for your podcast, the 90s Barry guy.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Posting the freaking PMG.
Yes.
Then both of them,
mm-hmm.
the 98 and the 97. And I'm like, dude, you were freaking killing me. And, he's like, I'm always willing to trade. This is not PC. And I'm like, man, I wouldn't even be able to come up with the caliber of stuff that would be required to come close to getting that card from you.
See, your problem is that if he was a basketball guy, you could have offered some Kobe rookies.
You're absolutely right.
You could have worked something out like that way.
But on the flip side, I did tell him, all joking aside, I was like, you know what? I can appreciate seeing these. They are on the top of my list. I was like, I can appreciate seeing them, and kudos to you to be able to have these. If I would have been smart years ago and not focused on, my run of autographs and trying to reach that goal of 200 autographs, mm-hmm. I could have had some of those. I know I could have. but that wasn't my focal point. And, I always say it. Those are the regrets that continuously haunt me to this day, because there were opportunities then, and I failed to take advantage of them.
Yeah.
And the only person I can blame is myself. But that doesn't mean that at some point in my collecting lifetime that I won't possess those. It'll cost me, but still doesn't mean that they're not out of my realm. They're out of my realm now.
Yeah.
But that doesn't mean later on this year, next year, whatever, that it still wouldn't be a possibility.
Well, it's always one of those ones where you got to have a little bit of. The good news is that you have a dialogue open with them. It's an interesting situation, because I would think I totally understand his perspective because he's got the card, but I'm thinking, for me, like, if it's not PC and it's quote unquote for trade, then you could probably get something liquid. The reason why I mentioned the Kobe rookies is that if I had a card like that and I could get something like Kobe rookies, decent ones, I could flip those around and do better than I would ever do with the PMG.
Yeah.
Very true.
It depends on like what your goal is, I suppose. Like, that's really what it comes down to, is that, because let's say you go, oh well, maybe I'd be willing to sell the PMG, but then you offer a little bit more than that value in the Kobe rookies. I go, these are liquid. You can turn them around right now and sell them and done. Or you could send them in for grading, and if they do well, then you kill it.
Yep.
So at least the dialogue's open. Nothing is set in stone, but it's interesting to see sometimes the way people work some of those things out.
Right.
Because it depends.
Well, and I will say he did, kind of crack a joke at the end. He goes, he's like, I'll be picking on the Emmett collectors next. So I'm actually looking forward to seeing what he posts that are Emmets. Because if he's obviously a big time 90s guy. So I can only imagine what Emmets he could potentially have, though, too. Mm-hmm. And I can appreciate it as a collector, and appreciating that era of the collecting world and being able to see some of those. Just to say I've seen them, because it's one thing to see them on eBay, but on Instagram, there's more of a personal touch. It's like you almost can like reach out and touch it almost.
Right.
It's that different feel. So I'm looking forward to seeing what he posts, though, because he's got some nice berry stuff.
Well, I think a lot of it comes down to as well is that and we've mentioned it before, like a lot of the collectors on Instagram are actually pretty good, like in terms of commenting, in terms of liking, appreciating other people's collections and cards. Because I've got a handful, like I think the name is like Sundog something. He's a Medano collector, so I'll see some stuff on there that he's got some nice stuff. Obviously, I'll put my Dallas Stars and Medano stuff up all the time. And then I'll get pinged from other Medano collectors who are like, oh, that's a nice one, or, whatever the case may be. And I've seen some of the stuff they've got, and it's pretty sweet as well. So you can appreciate, it's something you work on over time. And that's why I have fun with Matt. It's like, I'm almost past the point of jealousy with somebody else's collection. It's like, if you got it, hey, congratulations. Because I got a lot of stuff too. And I got a lot of stuff you're not going to have, and vice versa. So it's all good. Like it's all good. That's why it's like, no, respect.
And that's what it should be.
Yeah.
It's the mutual respect of each other's collection. It isn't the dick measuring contest. It's the true, appreciation of the time and energy, and even the money, the financial responsibility that's put into some of the collections that people build.
If somebody tried that stunt, there would be somebody that would walk by and immediately dwarf them.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I know enough collectors who would put some of these folks to shame if they felt like doing it. But they don't have any need. Like, they don't feel threatened.
Right.
Like the Shield 1 came about because a collector who literally collects high-end patches, like super high-end patches, and it's like one after another, after another, after another, after another, pinged me and goes, hey, this Medano's up. I think you should go. Good luck. I think you should go after it. He could have gone and bought it himself. It would have fit in with the rest of the collection. Because no, I think I've seen the stuff you pick up. It's like, this is probably a good one for you. So I was like, awesome. Appreciate it.
Yep. That's the respect factor. That's the relationship building aspect.
Mm-hmm.
So
Yeah, and Instagram definitely has more of that feeling, especially I'll say, and again, baseball. There's a lot of the underlying at times. It seems like people get a little worked up. I mean, this is over the years for any medium that true baseball cards are shown. With hockey, fuck, it's been nothing but love. I mean, I found a bunch of guys that no clue about, but again, if they're showing Mogilny, Bure, Sammy Kapanen, they're showing Al McGinnis, Sakic, Forsberg, Waugh, anyone in that '90s realm. It's fun to see. It's not even the big ones, the big huge ones. It's hey, here's like an upper deck 90-91 team card. The old art of like it was like the checklist of like the team. Stuff like that, that which is fun to see just because I know we all do it. We tend to forget. That's not the flashy card. That's not the money card. You're not going to get a PSA 10 and have that for $6,000. It's something that's like, man, that brings me. I know exactly when that's bringing me back because I'm looking at it either in the baseball form or I'm looking at it in the hockey form as a kid. Those team cards and like Ricky Henderson running or whatever it was, Nolan Ryan with the flame behind the baseball throwing, or McGuire or Canseco hitting like a monster home run. You know exactly what it is, and it doesn't have to be. It's just when you find other people that actually appreciate the cards, it doesn't have to be the $2,000 card. It can be a 25-cent card, but they'd appreciate it as if it were a $2,000 card. That's always fun to find that, just because I feel. And again, once this one card gets purchased, I'll probably have about 2 weeks worth of posts about it because, again, it's that pretty of a card. And again, I think I saw one of the guys too had picked up a Jim Carrey like this, and I'm like, shit, that was on like the watch list. I'd seen that had sold, and I'm like, well, at least I know it's going to somebody that enjoys this stuff. That's the other key. When some of these big cards selling, like, oh, well, where the hell did that go? It's going to somebody that actually gives a damn about the card and isn't in a hurry to grade it and flip it and get more money. So I like showing off the smaller stuff, but at the same time, I like showing off like the not grails, the rarer inserts, of course, the stuff that flashes. And again, you're going to look at it like, ooh, take a minute to see that, and hey, maybe I'll do a little research. Maybe
once in a while, Dave, you got to do the grail of grails. You know what I'm saying? Sometimes you got to do the grail of grails. Are you ready for it? That's why you can't do the contest, Steve. Somebody will come out with an atomic refractor Ziggy Puffy, and it's like, all right, PSA 10 Gretzky rookie, shove it up your ass. No one cares. No one cares.
Playing cards. Damn, or dominoes or something.
Yeah, it's like, that's the trump card right there. We're done. This is over. Mic drop. You know what? I'm dropping the whole music venue. Forget about the mic. I'm dropping everything. We're done. This battle's over, man. As you were talking, I was just flipping through it. I was like, oh, I found the card. The Grail of Grails, Dave. You got to go the Grail of Grails. You know what to do. And at least even with the dim lights, actually, it's playing well. So I was like, hey, you know what? Not bad.
And it happens to be serial numbered, unlike mine.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's numbered 99 if you like your Gretzky references. So there you go. It's 99 of 100. So there you go.
If you ever decide to sell that, you can put that in.
101.
I was going to say eBay 1 of 1, hashtag invest. Raw. We're done. It's over. I'm going to go get a refill. Be right back.
No worries. Now that, Ty, that T206, if you do some searches like on YouTube, you'll see some stuff about it, and it's actual video of said certain. Since there's multiple copies, you will actually be able to see some of it. I would venture to say that at some point you'll start seeing some of those, potentially on Instagram or Facebook, depending on who it is, and whether or not they have a social media presence. Kind of what Carlos and I were talking about when I was on the podcast, though, that Mantle sale, you kind of hope that it's from a collector's perspective, which it appears to be, but at the same time, it's also, trying to get that 5 minutes of fame, because they can sit there and claim, hey, I am the one who set the precedent, so to speak. I'm the one who set the record. But, at the same time, I think that's still going to continue to happen, especially these. I hate to lean towards like the institutional money, which I know is a thing, and I think it's going to start becoming more prevalent. But these individuals that have buku bucks, this is another way to invest money. And I've said it before. The stock market is one way to invest your money. Investing in collectibles is another. It's like diversifying your portfolio because there is money to be made. So whether it be CCGs, football cards, baseball cards, hockey, it doesn't matter. Coins, stamps, anything collectible, vinyl.
Ed did I don't know if you caught it. Ed did the vinyl collection video there. He did some records.
I did watch it.
Yeah, I got a chance to catch it after the fact. I appreciate stuff like that because I've got some records for some of my favorite bands and stuff, and it's fun. I just haven't had the chance to play any of them because it's like you get busy.
Yeah. Well, believe it or not, we actually bought my kiddo a record player for Christmas. That's what they wanted.
It's become retro now. What's old is new.
Yep. And I don't remember, what did they get? They bought two. One was a Beatles. It was a 2-pack of Beatles, but I don't remember which albums they were. One of their all-time favorite songs is Blackbird, which, that's a B track. And a lot of Beatles fans, I'm speaking from speculation, but being a B-side track, not everybody ever played the B-side frequently enough to where it was like you would think that a lot of people would remember it. Surprisingly enough, the only reason why I knew the song is because back in my younger years, I had a friend of mine that loved the Beatles and would play the crap out of that song. So I knew it. Not to mention they were learning how to play it on the guitar. And then what was the other one? It has escaped me at the moment.
I will say that
All American Rejects. Sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off.
No worries, no worries. I do remember that band too. That was an interesting one. Sometimes though, when it comes to a lot of bands, and I do want to talk about this one, though, Bob brings a good question. See, we're still impeaching you, but I do like this question, Bob. But when it comes to some of these musicians and bands, sometimes the deep cuts are fun because then you kind of know the fans who have paid a little bit of attention. Especially if you have a favorite musician or something, you can get some knowledge in the deep cuts. You got any thoughts you want to throw in there, Dave? I've got a few here, but please. Do you take that as a no? Or do you prefer to keep eating?
Not really. I mean,
The thing is, buying groups. Okay, real quick. Let me interject while Dave's chewing. Buying groups have actually been around for a really long time, though. Like actual buying groups have been around for literally going back to like the 80s and 70s and earlier. Like if you listen to some of the Beckett podcasts, he basically participated in buying groups in the 70s as a dealer, kind of doing the show circuit. Because what they would do at that time is they'd buy collections. They'd pool some money and buy some collections and then split the spoils amongst each other. That was what the buying group constituted back then. Today, it would be more like, okay, Dave, Steve, and myself get together to go and buy, the ultimate of ultimates, a PSA 10, Ziggy Palfy rookie. And then, we immediately flip it for $100 million to the guy who bought the 52 Mantle because he would want the Grail of Grails, like the ultimate. And then I go to my state of the art studio. Steve moves to like a massive ranch, and then Dave basically stays where he is. But he's got 2 bags of chips instead of 1 from the proceeds of that massive sale. It could be huge.
Don't forget about the Greg Jeffries.
Absolutely.
Got to add that too, because then we would really be up in the game.
Well, at that point, then we would make a play for Collector's Universe. We would just buy. I wouldn't buy Collector's Universe. I'd buy Nat Turner and in turn own Collector's Universe by proxy. With the Greg Jeffries, psh, it's like you can't buy. You have been bought, sir. It's like it's done. I'm sorry. Like I don't make the rules. This is the way it works. But the thing is, like buying groups have actually been around for a long time with that. Now it's become institutionalized. Here's what I would say: it's taken to the next level now. It's institutionalized. Where like an institution now has put together the fund. I promise you, guaranteed. I've heard a few rumblings from people that talk to a lot of people in the industry is that you're going to. So I think if Ed's talking about the buying groups there, then those are like cook groups that basically are getting together to manipulate prices, buying specific cards strategically to try to bump a price, which you could do if you go back to those pop reports. It's not just doing it to cards. You got to do it. If you try to do it to Luka Doncic card, there's so many that you'd have to buy a lot to push the market much. But if you pick a card with a lower pop report, you wouldn't have to buy as much to potentially bump the market. You'd have to be selective, but yeah, you could definitely do that, and that definitely happens. I guarantee you. I guess what it comes down to is if you don't want to be caught up in any of that, you got to kind of be careful what you're buying.
Yeah.
Because not all the cards are going to be, affected by it the same. But certain cards definitely will be, and they have been, and they will continue to be.
Yep. Which the hope can only be that it doesn't transfer into 50%, 60%. You know, when it starts increasing the impact to the overall number of cards that become impacted, that's when the concern comes in. Because if it gets to the point to where you're talking a substantial percentage, then, you know, for most of us that are in the hobby as a collector, will be priced out.
Well, that's fair. So can I give you a tangible example of an interesting one that I'm tracking? And I'm going to talk about it more on Friday, but I'll give you a little bit of a sneak preview of what I've been observing. I got to do a little more digging into it. May as well. You know, and while you're recovering from your impeachment, you can do whatever gives you ease and sets your mind at, you know, allows you to recenter yourself as you try to get reinstated. It'll fail, but at least you can get yourself recentered while you try. Always time to take a shot before I move on to the point. When the Gretzky sale happened, one of the things that I was saying that I wanted to look for was I wanted to see what happened. You know, past the Lemieux, past those guys. That's also the run-up for the season, Ed, which if you have cards to sell, is not a bad thing. You can take advantage of it. I might have. Just saying. It helps to already have the Sotos previously. But in the run-up, I wanted to see what happened to some of those other Hall of Fame guys and just to the next level. And I'll tell you what I saw the other day that was really interesting. A new record high has been set on the Brendan Shanahan rookie. PSA 10 sold for $1,500. Which is very strong, especially for that year. It's more than tripled like in less than a year. They don't sell all the time. The pop is actually pretty low on that card, but 1,500 is strong. Now, what I wanted to see at the same time is I wanted to see, okay, so is this going to push the Hall or did the Hall pull the Shanahan? So that's what I was trying to figure out. And I think I found a sale of the Hall. That's it. I'm starting to do my preliminary digging. I will share my findings more on Friday. So, but I'm letting you know what I'm kind of tracking now. That's why I say, like, this is the stuff that I was trying to observe because I'm like, this is where I feel like we're going to see the impact more so. I'm not worried about Gretzky or Lemieux. It's these guys. If you see these guys, pay attention. Because don't forget that O-Pee-Chee Premier Medano is suddenly going a lot higher than I've seen it historically. That card was like $50 or $60 in a PSA 10 all day long. You could have gotten it all the time. $200, $250? The Yager going to $500 or $600 PSA 10 when you could have gotten it all day long? Interesting. I sold a PSA 9 for $100. I took advantage of it. Sold, my man. Sold. But I found a Hall and that sold maybe a week before the Shanahan. approximately. I'll get the dates correct by Friday. But that one went for 5,000. So I'm like, So maybe the Hall, there was a precursor to the Shanahan. It's something to keep an eye on.
So are you thinking that the sale of the Gretzky and other subsequent sales, because earlier you had mentioned that, okay, so great. It sold all-time high. Who cares?
Yep. I said once you start seeing it in those mid-tier guys, pay attention.
But that's what I was getting at.
Yeah.
And you're starting. So what you were ultimately stating is it is slowly starting to transition into those guys.
That was what I was waiting for to see. And now because Shanahan and Brett Hall would qualify as guys in kind of that Hall of Famer, no doubt.
Yep. But
they weren't getting impacted right away. It might be a delayed reaction to it. It might be. So now I'm kind of tracking some of those guys at that level and seeing like, okay, is it just you two? Because that's kind of interesting. Because that'll be the real indicator. The real market indicator will be like, because 88, 89 OPG is not rare. But I had a bit of a chuckle when I saw it. I showed it to Bobby, and we like stared at it for a minute, and I said, "I'm kind of curious." So while we were on the chat, I did a screen share, and I go, "Okay." So I went and bought a PSA 7 Shanahan for $15, just to get a chuckle out of it. It's like PSA 7. There you go. So the point is that some of those ones are not going to get moved right away. They're just not. Yeah. But if the 10 goes for a record high, you're probably going to start seeing a record for 9. Yeah. Probably going to see a record for an 8. Yeah. Yep. You start moving down the chain, because even like low grade Lemieux rookies are starting to go for a pretty penny. So it's like, yeah, they are. So that's the part. Now we're seeing a little bit of it. It's not going to be across the board, by the way. You can go buy a Brett Hall the PMG was $12, so it's not like every Brett Hall card in creation.
Right.
But the rookie, a high grade rookie, yeah.
Well, because it's got the key indicator though. It's one of those because. We had alluded to the whole key thing during your podcast as well. What dictates the key rookie? Well, depending on what sport, depending on what years, sometimes there are limitations. What would, could be identified as defined as key. Mm-hmm. Out of curiosity, though, do you think? Because although I'm supposedly the hockey oracle,
and you are, yes. Please go on.
At what point would you consider, Forsberg, Sakic, those type guys at that same tier, or have you noticed anything from that perspective?
Sakic, yes. Forsberg's only problem is that Forsberg's rookie year is 91, 92, and it's really heavily produced.
Okay.
88, 89 O-Pee-Chee's thing. Now, 88, 89 O-Pee-Chee, to be fair, is not like short printed, just to be clear. So I actually bought the Shanahan kind of as a hedge against potential price inflation, because I've got one for my set, but the PSA 7 is nicer than the one I have in my set. So I'm like, all right, but if it goes up in value, great. That's fine and dandy. I'll try to get an 8 cheap if I can, because if they do start lifting, well, then I'll sell the 8 and I'll keep the 7. The 7 can stay in the set. My thing is, I've never advocated, I don't advocate just buying for the sake of quote unquote # investing. But if you see something, as an experienced hobbyist, you can take advantage of the wave if you see it. It's just paying attention. So that's short-term arbitrage. The beauty of something like a 7 or an 8 is like, well, I don't mind keeping it. Shanahan's still a great player, still a great card, but I'm trying to buy it cheap. Keywords: I am trying to buy it cheap. Yep. I'm not trying to go top of market.
Yeah, buy in cheap.
If you buy in cheap, you pretty much can't lose.
Yep.
But if you're trying to buy a top of market, well, then you deserve what you get. Like, I can't help you at that stage. So just be smart. That would be my piece of advice. Just be smart. Use your brain. If you've got some experience, use that. Help yourself.
No, and I get that. I was just because, and maybe hockey seems to be a more collector's niche, however you want to. I know there is
until this point. It has been.
I know there's a lot of hockey collectors out there. I mean, let's be realistic. Yeah. But at the same time, I'm wondering why we're starting to see the trend, or you've just started noticing the trend more so in the hockey realm than let's say what's going on like in baseball, for instance. We understand, yes, Mantle sold for an all-time high. Some cards, yes, we could understand, other Mantles, the 53 Mantle, things along those lines because of everything that's transpiring. But, have you just been focusing on hockey from that perspective, or have you been looking out on the baseball side, though, too, for vintage?
That's why it's vintage, yes, but that's also why I took advantage of the Soto. Like, I had a Soto that quadrupled in value for a non-licensed since last summer. And I bought it because it was a numbered Soto. It was a rookie year Soto. And I like Soto. I think he's a great player. But I tried to get my hands on as many as I could. I actually could have gotten my hand on more. I kind of got greedy. I kind of outsmarted myself on that a little bit. Because I had a chance to buy 2 of the select silvers, the prisms. They were on ComC for $37 a piece. I tried to make offers on them for $35 because I had bought one at $35 already. I have one. But I tried to buy 2 more at $35 each. And then I think it tipped off the seller, and then they not only rejected it, but bumped up the price. That was a mistake on my part. So sometimes don't be greedy. Sometimes don't be cheap and just pull the trigger and buy it. At $37, though, I think those are going for the price changes all the time, but I think they're over 100 now raw on eBay. So think about that.
Almost 3 times.
Yeah, and that's since August, September timeframe. But again, I got a bit greedy. Like a couple of bucks one way or the other would not have made that much of a difference. I should have just bought it at 37, counted my lucky stars and moved on with it. But at least my instincts were right. But the point is that it confirmed that I was thinking correctly. And right now the market is bearing that out.
Right.
But I don't sit there and advertise. We joke about the thing with Paul is like, I don't sit there and advertise the top 5. I could, but then I'm telling you what I'm doing, and the reason it's working is because I'm not telling people what I'm doing.
Right. Well, because you're actually doing the research and putting in the time, but yet at this, I guess at the same time, you wouldn't want to be passing on incorrect information. Honestly, I don't think that's what you're about.
Quoted. You don't want to get quoted because what happens as soon as you say it, you have here's an interesting way of putting it. Maybe this will be something kind of interesting to put it this way. And this is something I've argued previously. Data tools are a tool, which we mentioned before. We talked about that. But also, when somebody talks about these picks or does whatever online, even if they do their research, even if it's well researched, even if they do all that, okay, great. But here's what happens. The moment you put it out there, you have changed the variables. You've made awareness to it. So when you've made awareness to it, the market shifts. So the conditions that you had just researched are no longer true. Even if it just changes a little bit, even if it just shifts a little bit. So now all of a sudden you could be wrong, even though your logic was perfectly sound. It was sound before you said anything and before people heard you and then reacted accordingly. It's like how people act versus when they act when they've got a camera in their face. Mm-hmm. The knowledge that the camera's in your face influences your actions. So if you didn't know the camera's in your face, but a camera was there, you would act one way. But your knowledge of it, the awareness of it, changes the whole game. Well, in the market the way it is right now, as soon as someone goes like, "Oh my God," FOMO kicks in. They start reacting. Uh-oh. Yeah. So I will say to you, and this is no slight, and this is not like a secret cabal thing. It's the honest truth. The collectors that are trying to be like, well, I would like to be able to make some deals that will help fund my collection and do things that will help me and make things work for me. They're operating in silence. They're not sitting there advertising their moves because why would they?
Well, it becomes counterproductive. Well, it becomes counterproductive because then, the more you advertise, the more you talk about it. It's one thing to talk amongst friends.
Sure.
It's no different. I've talked with Vinny. I've talked with Dave. We've talked about things like that, but we don't go out and advertise them.
Yeah.
And if Dave were to tell me, hey, just FYI, this is kind of what I'm thinking. I'm thinking about doing this. I'm not going to go jump on the bandwagon and, take advantage of what Dave thinks is going to happen. That's not who I am. Vinny's the same way. Vinny's shared something with me and, I'm not going to disclose it. But it's one of those in which when you think about the logic behind some of those decisions makes perfect sense. Yeah. And it's like, what? That's pretty smart. That's pretty sharp. Hey, good luck. I'm hoping it works out. because, I want us as a collective to do well because we are collectors. And, the ultimate benefit to this is if we can self-sustain our collections, why not? Why not take advantage of it? On the flip side, though, I would like to go back. Bob mentioned, from a hockey perspective.
Oh, sure. Yeah, I saw that.
Is this truly market correction for hockey?
Here's the interesting thing. I mentioned it kind of in jest. I said it tongue in cheek. My favorite phrase. It's like getting the respect it deserves. Here's the thing I'll say. If you want to make the argument, you have some data points that you could try to make the argument. Here's my problem with it. When soccer randomly ran up, was that a market correction for soccer?
It shouldn't have been.
No, but like, it was soccer was relatively low. Like, it was super cheap for a long time, and it is a popular sport. Was that a market correction? Well, it didn't sustain, so it wasn't. Hockey has been super popular this whole time. In Canada, it's a super popular collective pastime. But the thing is, when you say market correction, well, I guess it depends on whether. I guess this would be the only way I can answer it, and we'll never know for definitive for sure. It's a market correction if you're saying that the people that are now buying into it literally didn't know hockey existed up until now. If there's sudden awareness of it, they develop this appreciation for it spontaneously out of the blue. I'm dubious, but sure, if that happens to be the case and it was spontaneous, or maybe they did a comparison because Bob puts a comment there in relation to the other three major sports. If they sit there and they legitimately think that hockey is underpriced relative to the other sports, then there's an organic element to it. Then that would be a market correction. But an across the board realization to this is like a Jeremy line. I'm not buying it. It's not spontaneous. If these people knew hockey existed before and they didn't care, but now they're like, well, it's cheap compared to the other ones. Oh, well, maybe we should get into this one. Well, that's not spontaneous. That's you analyzing the data.
Right.
And I don't blame you for that. It's not terrible logic, but it's not spontaneous in any way. That would be the way I would position that. Does that make sense?
No, absolutely. And it was more along the lines, I noticed he mentioned it, and I've heard the term before, which is why I wanted to pose the question because, I'm not an analyst by any stretch of the imagination.
I just play one on YouTube.
I don't follow the stock market because, you can use – I'm starting to see a lot of the stock market terminology being leveraged in card collecting.
Correct.
Because of the investment mentality and, the persona that card collecting is getting. So it's one of those in which is some of the terminology legitimate? Does it exist in the same way as it does in the stock market? Or is it just somebody trying to find ways to identify a term to try and define certain situations and circumstances that are happening that we're noticing? And to me, based on kind of what you said, it seems more along the lines of they're trying to give it some sort of substance by using this terminology when in fact there's not, I don't want to say there's not legitimacy behind it, but it's loose interpretation of some of that terminology and trying to put it into words and affix it into card collecting.
Here's a cool thing that I want to give to you and to Dave and to anybody else who's listening. This is a fun thing. So here's a little bonus because I'm Carlos Nugget that I'll throw on this show that I would normally throw on mine. When it comes to the psychology of people, collections, anything else, if you ever want to find out how well somebody can do yoga, find out how well they can retroactively put themselves and bend themselves into a pretzel, coming up with the justification for the thing that just happened, when at the time it was happening, they weren't thinking anything to that lines. But after the fact, it's all perfectly logical. Well, obviously, based on, this, and this, well, obviously that was certainly going to happen. No, it wasn't. You weren't even thinking that at the time. That was no. If Dave wanted to do that, you'd find out he's the greatest yogi that's ever lived. How is this man so flexible? He literally turned himself into a pretzel to come up with this justification. It's incredible. We've got people who are like, they have 40-40 vision in hindsight. Forget about 20/20. They have 40-40. They've got superhuman X-ray vision, everything. It's incredible. But then at the moment that it was happening, it's like, why didn't you see it coming then? Why weren't you already ahead of that curve? It should have just been hitting you as you were already fully prepared for it. If that was so obvious, if the logic was so sound. So it's one of those
Valid.
things. Yeah, so it's one of those things. It's like, I take with a grain of salt. We can try to make that argument now ahead of time. And when Ed says the thing with Tiger Woods, here's the cool part. The Tiger Woods 2001 Upper Deck rookie was available in abundance. You literally had almost 20 years to buy the damn thing. 20 years. 20 to buy as many as you wanted. They were cheap. You could have had them by the brickful. And then there was a brief moment, shining moment, when they were going for $1,400 for the PSA 10. At which point I said, like, if you have a bunch of those, because you've had them over the years, at $1,400, you don't have to sell them all. If you really believe it's going to keep going, great. But you can sell a couple and collect your $1,400 a pop. Take it. It's basically free money at that point for you, because it would have been cheap for you when you bought in.
Yeah.
Now, if you bought at $1,390, well, then you better hope it keeps going up. Otherwise, you're screwed. But the person who bought it at 30 or 40 or 50 bucks for the PSA 10, take the money. I don't know. That would be my perspective on it. Take the money. And I love golf. I enjoy it. And when Tiger was in his prime, he was the GOAT for his time when he was at his absolute peak. But I enjoyed it. So it's like, understand what it is. Like, we didn't suddenly realize that Tiger Woods was up there. It's like, where have you been the last 24 years?
Yeah, it's just interesting to see some of these trends.
You're going to find a lot of retroactive realizations. There's going to be a lot of market corrections, if we're going to use that terminology. There's going to be a lot of them in a lot of categories.
Bob, do they really? Bob just had mentioned they have HBO has a documentary going on right now.
He does, but apparently it's not favorable to Tiger. So if you think it's going to do the Last Dance thing, probably not.
Yeah, that was going to be the question I was going to pose.
Yeah, my understanding is it's some are arguing it's a borderline hit piece, so it kind of goes the opposite way.
Yeah, but at the same time, depending on the audience that becomes captivated by something like that, could still have the same effect.
Sure.
Regardless.
Yeah, I think with the Tiger one, I don't think it really matters so much as people just look at it and go, well, here's a GOAT level athlete who was super cheap. And they're like, we can get our hands on a bunch, let's try. And then it got bumped up. And as soon as you get comps, as soon as you get some valid comps, all of a sudden people freak out and they're like, oh my God. I guess maybe the best way to look at it is if it's Tiger Woods exclusively or if it's golf in general. Because if that's the case, now I haven't checked. But if that was the case, why don't you go look for a Phil Mickelson rookie? Mickelson was one of the best golfers of his generation there too. He was also extremely popular. Like as a golfer, he's extremely popular. And he's not Tiger, but he was excellent for his era and a really good golfer. If his stuff's cheap, you can probably get it. You probably get your hands on a bunch of it if you want to.
Yeah.
So there you go. You can look that up. I'm not promising anything. That's not investment advice. I'm just saying look it up yourself and figure it out. Don Mossy was always due for a market correction, Bob. Always. Always.
Just waiting for the Ziggy Palfy correction.
Dude, as soon as the Ziggy Palfy ship comes in, bros. Mega yacht time. Mega yacht.
Just as long as we're all invited.
There you go. After everybody gets their vaccines, we'll talk.
And you're flying us up too, right?
Dude, when it comes to Ziggy Palfy money, we shall spare no expense. You will get the finest flight, Steve. Dave, you will get the finest coach bus that anyone's ever seen. They will have
Well-
all the spotted cow on the way over, so you can have cases of spotted cow. Enjoy.
As long as I can go through like through St. Marie, then up, and then through North Bay, and then come down.
Well, we got to do it. We basically have to smuggle you over because, like, you heard Steve's story from the podcast. He's trying to save your feelings. Really, it's association with Amish Dave Archer that almost got him arrested in Canada. Like, it was troublesome. It was problematic times. They're like, wait, you know this Amish Dave? No, I have no idea who that is. I don't know what the Instant Revolution podcast is. I'm innocent. It was Bob Lewis.
He could have just said it's some other guy from Texas on a ranch.
There you go, some other guy in Texas on a ranch. True.
Valid.
Yeah.
That's something that's amazing to me. That just because the community feels and some of the stuff is going for stupid money for the WNBA. I don't want to see bounce passes and layups. That's not a good selling point. That'd be like a hockey player using a chair for a skating ability. It's like, no, I don't. I just do not see that being something feasible long term to dip your toes and then do a belly flop into. Because it's again, even if you like watching WNBA, not many other people do.
But the shame is that for the ones who actually legitimately would have been interested in the Cards because they actually like the league, they're kind of getting screwed over. Because under normal circumstances, they'd be able to go buy their boxes or their, retail boxes or whatever, and it would be fine.
Mm-hmm.
But other people are like, oh my God, it says Prism on it. I don't care what it is. Now, when we get to Prism Bowling, hashtag it best.
Who was it? Earl. There's somebody that uses like the RVD one. See, when he'd get a strike, he'd start doing like the RVD.
Yeah, I know who you're talking about, and it's like, and if we can get his Prism Rookie, Dave, his Prism Rookie, Prism Gold out of 10, bruh.
Then the Walmart unannounced blue Pulsar parallel and the Target green wave unannounced parallel, and then the Kmart red swirl unannounced parallel.
Yes, but why isn't Prism Racing gone crazy?
Heat Weather. I don't think it was Don. I think Heat Weather. I don't know. This is where I wish Tim Mousy was in here, because he would probably know something about that Prism racing, since he's a big race or a NASCAR type collector.
Well, and the only reason why I posed the question, now I don't know if it's been Prism specific, but every time my wife goes to Walmart, I have her check the card section just to see. Mm-hmm. And the only thing that has continued to be present has been racing.
That's kind of weird.
And every once in a while, there may be, hockey, upper deck hockey.
Now, is this like racing Formula One or NASCAR?
That's NASCAR.
Weird. I feel like that sport has enough popularity that you would think it would go. That's kind of weird.
Well, and what I find interesting is, and I'm pretty sure it was brought up on your podcast, the Formula One stuff.
Yeah.
Being Topps Chrome.
Yeah.
And, freaking 325, I think is the pre-order per box.
Yeah.
Which is ridiculous as far as I'm concerned. Now, I don't know if that's always been the pre-order price or if that's just the overall excitement around it for those who have been, crying for this forever. I don't know.
No, that's 100% a 2020, 2021 phenomenon. I guarantee it. Like, under normal circumstances, it would have its fans, but it wouldn't be like that. I promise you, it would not. Now, I don't know if you caught it, Dave, but we did get an update from Vinny on Paul.
Yep.
So apparently he's good, which is good. That's good to hear. Good to hear.
Yeah, I missed that.
Yeah. Although Ed also said next product coming, Prism Esports. Here's the thing. You joke about that, Ed, but two things. I promise you, if they came out with Prism Esports, some of the kids would actually be interested in that.
Mhm.
I'm guaranteeing you there's a bigger fan base for esports than there is for the WNBA. I promise you. And that would be a more organic interest from some of the kids that actually watch esports. I guarantee it. I would actually have an easier time accepting the popularity of esports Prism than I would some of the other examples we've seen. Good evening.
Like I said, I just find it interesting that, of all the things that still seem to be in stock, and it being Prism, because I know the first time she looked, it was Prism,
Weird.
and I was tempted, not to purchase and open, but to purchase and sit, just because, if I'm not mistaken, isn't it the first year of Prism?
I believe it is, yeah. I thought so.
Anybody know?
I'm thinking it is. I've seen Donruss. I've seen Certified. They've had Certified for a few years. I think then Absolute and National Treasures they've had, and I think that's Select. They've had Select.
Talking about racing, Bob. NASCAR. Just to clarify, if you were quoting other sports. Not saying that you're wrong, but I
also like that Wester Griff is asking about the Bucks or Packers. Here's the thing, Ed. I'm a Packers fan, and I was getting 2.6 to 1 odds on the Buccaneers. I was like, okay, the odds are good enough that I'm like, okay, so I'm going to hedge this. Either Tom Brady makes me money and I'm irritated, but at least I get compensated for my irritation. Or the Packers put this man away, and then I'll be happy about that. I'll take the loss on that one. I'll take the loss.
Toronto signed Springer.
Really? Interesting.
6 years, $150 million.
Okay.
It just popped up on the phone as like an ESPN little blurb.
Wow. Okay. That's aggressive.
Who was that?
Springer to the Blue.
That'll be interesting, if nothing else, for sure. Yeah, no, I see your comment, Brad. Yeah, I figured, I'll be honest with you, the odds were so stacked. That I was like, oh, interesting. Especially when you're getting 2.5, 2.6 to 1 odds. Okay. It's not like Tampa's not really that much of an underdog. They beat the Packers out the last time they played, so I feel like if the odds are that good, it's almost like a free opportunity. You got a decent shot at winning there. Yeah. But Eric's a big fan of a lot of the other he's very much trying to get it. A lot of his collecting really is trying to get ahead of the market. It kind of plays into, and I'll give him credit. He is public about a lot of his thoughts on some of these things. He says it out loud. It kind of plays into what, we've talked about, where sometimes there's a lot of veteran collectors who will have different theories or ideas, and they'll kind of run their experiment on their own kind of in silence. Well, Eric will at least tell you what he's thinking on some of that stuff. So sometimes you can take advantage of that if you listen to him. I wouldn't do it all the time. Maybe do some of your own thinking as well, but he's been correct on a couple of those for sure.
Yeah, if people would have watched my pickup videos in 2016 and 2017, they could have made a killing now with some of these basketball cards that the guys I picked up then.
Well, the problem is, Dave, some of your excellent picks were interspersed with 57,000 cards of everyone else in creation. I think Steve had a Little League card that might have been in a couple of your pickup videos back then. It's an Easter egg, guys. Keep looking for it. It's there. He collected every card ever made in creation.
This is true.
Just saying.
You're not incorrect.
That's the best way. You are not wrong. You're not wrong.
It looks like this year's Prism NASCAR is not the first year.
Okay, so then maybe not as big a deal then.
Yep, I was just doing some searches, and there's a 2016 retail. And what's interesting, it says the triumphant return of NASCAR to trading cards.
Okay.
So there is a 2016 Prism version. However, I'm not seeing anything else in between that. So it could have been, quite the year break in between those two as well.
Yeah, and sometimes that works in your favor as well. That can be.
Yep.
It just kind of depends. To Ed's previous comment, I'll be very interested. Like, here's the thing: I really want a reason to be able to watch my Blue Jays and be excited about it. But like, I struggle with this sometimes. If the offense is at least fun to watch, that'd be kind of cool. What I really want is Vladimir Guerrero Jr. to play decent, because I'm going to keep some. But I actually have a nice little Vladimir Guerrero Jr. Let's put it this way: I have some decent Vladimir Guerrero Jr. cards that are sitting there. Where it's like, all right, you know what, Vladdy, help me, bro, help me a little bit. I'll keep some of them, but you know what? I wouldn't mind moving a couple if he could get off to a decent start. That'd be great.
You've had more than a few wins, Bob. Just saying.
I think though what a lot of collectors will find if they're serious, if they actually play over time, is that a lot of the collectors who are collecting because they think if they're using that experience and that background in it, it's like you're going to have wins almost by accident. Like you're not going to be going like, oh my God, I've done all the analysis and this is why. My thought process was if Vladimir Guerrero Jr. is half as good as his dad was an amazing player. If he's half as good as his dad, those cards will do well in the short run. I'm not planning on holding them for 25 years. That's not my goal here. But I'll keep a couple because he's a Blue Jay and he's a homegrown Blue Jay, so that'd be kind of fun. But there's a bunch of... I probably have 24 of his rookie cards in various iterations. And some of them are pretty rare. Some of them are autographed and things like that. I've got RPAs. So if he does well, I can divest myself of a lot of that and switch it over to some other collections that I'm working on. It's already been spent. It's just sitting there. If nothing happens, it's done.
Yeah, unfortunately, I'm too narrow focused. But on the flip side, that's why I also have always done sets and kind of moved away from that for a time.
Well, there's so many dollars to go around.
Yep. And I regret some of those not taking advantage of situations and circumstances, but at the same time, I still have a lot of wins that I'm still sitting on. And when the time is right, there's definitely some advantages and some opportunities.
I think that's fair. But I think, but that to me is the underlying point is that most collectors are not sitting there trying maybe this would be the good way to put it. Most collectors are not desperate. They're not desperately trying to chase like the moment and trying to be like, oh my God, I have to make 50,000% on these deals right now, this minute. That's why I said, if you can buy low enough, you can take a bunch of flyers. If you can buy low enough, because then you only have to hit a couple of times on a couple of them and you're break even. And if your batting average is decent, then you're ahead. So what's wrong with that? That's okay. That to me sounds good.
That's why I like the and again, now it's even worse on the Facebook, the auction groups, because you have so much of the speculative nature of things and always trying to position yourself one step ahead. But in reality, and again, see it down the road, right now I feel a lot of people are overpaying on stuff that's not really worthy of going real high. There's one of the groups I think had a Bowman's Best Dominguez auto a couple weeks ago. And I mean, within like the first 2 days, it was up to 200. I mean, it's not a cracked ice refractor auto. It's not a green. It's not serial numbered. I mean, they're nice cards. That's more of a long-term hold. But we've seen a lot too with the Yankees prospects that get, again, harkening back to the mantle and him being the kid from Oklahoma, and let's see how he does. And he fills those shoes. A lot of their prospects over the years have not filled those shoes. I mean, so you're buying in for like big bucks, and you're getting left with a bag of shit in your hand because Kevin Moss couldn't hit a curveball.
Brian Taylor.
Yeah, I mean, they're just, and people say, well, what about Jeter? Jeter was a first-round pick, but he wasn't like, oh God, I think that's something like Ozzie Smith or Ripken. It's maybe he'll fill out. Who knows? We'll see what happens. And again, he had a very, very good career. He didn't have him winning championships and being like anointed the captain. That's where a lot of his mystique and legacy lies.
I think that's true, but I think one thing though that and I hate the Yankees, so just to be clear where it's coming from, I will give the man credit in the sense he ended up with almost 3,500 hits.
Yeah.
So it's not like he didn't put up certain statistics that are like, no, and 350 stolen bases and a 310 career average. So it's like by traditional like hitting, he actually was a terrible shortstop, to be honest. He actually wasn't that good, but he was okay. But as a hitter, he was actually very good, all things considered. Pretty good. So it's one of those deals where, and then of course he was clutch in the postseason, which like is a huge deal for a lot of folks. So the thing is, I don't like the whole unanimous Hall of Famer thing. It's junk to me. But if you're going to have a Yankee be a unanimous Hall of Famer, Jeter made way more sense than Mariano Rivera, for goodness sake. Like Jeter, at least I wouldn't be happy about it, but at least it would make sense. I could make the argument.
Well, some of that, it's the whole hype train. And I hate to use that terminology, but, hype plays in so much in some of these, if you want to call them speculative purchases, so be it. But hype plays in so much to some of this. As we know, Dominguez he's what, 19?
Thereabouts, yeah.
I mean, he may never sniff a major league field ever. You just don't know. But even at a minimum, you're still looking at what, 3 years, 2 to 3 years, maybe?
Yep.
Because, I mean, Harper, keep me honest, Harper was one of the youngest that ever got called up to date.
Yes.
And he was 20?
Yeah, give or take. Well, he might have been in his teens.
I was saying 19, I think. But I mean,
Okay,
late. It wasn't like he just turned 19, I don't think.
But Harper was hyped very early. Very early. He was super hyped.
Correct.
But like we'll use my boy. We'll use Juan Soto. Here's the thing. Almost all the Juan Sotos that I bought, which I've done well on, the ones that I have bothered to sell are the ones that I've held on to. Almost all of them that I bought. The best ones, the ones that I got for the best price comparatively to where they are now, I bought in 2019. That wasn't his first season. That was his second season. That team was on the way to the playoffs. They won the World Series that year. He had already played a season, played well. He was in his second season. He was playing better, and he was developing a lot. The reason I decided to buy in is because I looked at it, I watched him play, and I go, I like what I see here. So think about that. He had already started playing. He had already had a very good rookie season as a teenager. And I looked at him and I go, you're 20. You look that good at 19. You're looking better at 20. And your team is at least playoff bound. We'll see what happens. They won the World Series. I bought the Chrome on ComC for $15. I sent it off for grading. I paid $10. That card is pushing. I got a PSA 10. The card is pushing $500. I have $25 into it. He had already played season.
Right.
And I bought it halfway. Actually, I bought it in, ComC tells me the date. It was August. I bought it in August of the year they won the World Series. It wasn't in April. It wasn't preseason. It wasn't. I bought it in August. They were in the stretch drive. So somebody who tells me you can't, yes, you can. Just use your eyeballs and pay attention. Don't just go for the most hype guy. Right now, if you would, how many of these people who are losing their minds now would love to have bought this one Soda Chrome for $15? All of them. So it's like, it can be done. You got to get a little bit lucky. It's timing. It's all that. But I didn't buy him as a prospect.
Right.
If I had bought him as a pre-career prospect, then I could have gotten that Bowman Chrome autograph card, which is like $8,000. That'd be amazing. But I didn't buy it at a bad time either. So it's like,
Right.
and he at least had some kind of a track record. Something.
Yeah, it's interesting. And maybe I should pay more attention to some of it. It just, I don't know. I stick to what I know, I guess.
Yeah.
And it's not that I couldn't put forth the time and the effort. It's one of those in which I guess I'm to the point to where maybe I just don't care. Maybe it's because I'm only focused on, my aspects of the collecting realm. And yes, it would be nice to be able to take advantage of some of those situations. But then, of course, it takes me out of my wheelhouse.
Agreed, but I think that's why it needs to be. Ty mentioned it. He was talking about like penny stocks. He made a reference to penny stocks. It can be like that, but I like if you put it into sports card parlance. I like a penny stock where I think there is an actual product being produced. Let's put it that way, as opposed to a penny stock where I'm just going blindly and being like, "Well, it's cheap, I'll buy it." It's like I like the idea of looking for some of those, and they still exist, by the way, and they will still continue to exist because not everybody's heralded right out of the box. How many people had the opportunity legitimately, and I took advantage of it to a small degree. I could have taken advantage to a bigger degree. Obviously, I didn't. But what happened is you could have bought Patrick Mahomes.
Mm-hmm.
I bought 3 Mahomes Donruss rookies, 3 for $15 a pop after he was already playing. I also bought that the season he won the MVP. I also didn't buy it in week 1. I bought it like in week 7 or week 8. They were still $15. He went on to win the MVP that year. The next year, he won the Super Bowl. That card has been over 1,000. By the way, one of the ones I got also got a PSA 10. Did I get 1,000? No, I sold it earlier than that, but I still did okay.
Right.
But it was $15. At $15, it's like, okay, I can take a flyer. I think Mahomes looks good. It's all right. That's cool. It was luck. But it was also like I watched him play and like he seems good.
Right. Well, that's why I kind of, joked while on the podcast. It's like, here's your investment advice. Buy quarterbacks. Period.
Mm-hmm.
And sit on them.
Lucky sometimes. You can get lucky sometimes.
I mean, they may not turn out to be the next Brady, but, at the same time, from a football perspective, that's where your money is. It's not your receivers. It's not your running backs, although some of them still have value. But if you want the big bang in return on investment, quarterbacks are the way to go, period.
Yep. So you want me to give you a fun example that plays into exactly what you're talking about. And we'll see what happens with it. But an example of something you can still do, not pre-early without any track record, right? Okay. So let's talk football. Steve knows this one. Okay. What's going on with Deshaun Watson and the Texans? Just in a nutshell, what's going on with them right now?
He wants out.
Correct. What do you think would happen if he did get his way and he got out to at least a marginally decent team? A team that isn't a complete train wreck.
Depending on the market, but there'll be a run on his stuff.
Correct. And he doesn't need a lot because the Texans had next to nothing. And he was still able to put up decent numbers, right?
Yeah, because he's still in his rookie contract.
Correct. But pretty good player, I would say. I think he's shown us that he has capabilities, let's say. If, heaven forbid, you put some talent around him, right?
Yep.
Okay. Not 2 years ago, not 6 months ago, a couple of weeks ago, I went to Four Sharp Corners. There was an optic rookie, a PSA 9 optic rookie. They were having a sale, and I had PayPal funds. I got a PSA 9 Deshaun Watson optic rookie for $37. If anything happens with him, and there's any kind of a run on it, optic's not a bad one. It's not Prism, but it's not a bad one. I paid $37. I feel pretty good.
No, and that's, and I get it. And, you know, the opportunities always are there.
Yeah.
If you put forth the time and the effort.
Yeah.
And like I said, it's not that I don't think about stuff. It's one of those thinking about stuff and then taking advantage of those situations. And for whatever reason, I don't ever pull triggers. And part of that has to do with, you know, my ever shrinking budget these days. Because I always think past the fact that, okay, well, if I do this and if this happens, well, shit.
Allegedly, kidneys.
Yes, we're not going to go down that road.
I said allegedly. Just saying. But the thing is, the reason I gave the example, and this is a more recent example, like literally a recent example, is that I just sat there and I'm like, for $37, okay. And the reason I was on Four Sharp Corners, by the way, is that they had one of the Medano rookies that I wanted to get in a PSA 10. They also had it for $37. So I was like, okay, I'll combine shipping on it. So I got a card I wanted for the collection, and then I picked up this one. Guess where it's going? It's going in the box. If something comes down the pipe, well, it just so happens that I happen to have one of those, but I bought it cheap enough. Again, a graded card. How much does it cost to grade?
$10, $12, $15.
So how much am I really paying for the card? Yeah. Not that much. It seems decent to take a flyer on it. It was cheap enough.
Right.
And that's recent. It can be done.
Mm-hmm.
If it turns out I am correct, he goes to a half-decent team in a decent market, starts playing well, heaven forbid goes to playoffs, because he's shown talent, really good talent already. What if he becomes, what if his prices become 75% of Mahomes? And I have a PSA 9 optic. I'm kind of laughing, right? For $37? There's a story for you.
Yep.
And they're going to be like, oh my God, did you do this rookie year? I did it in 2021. After a nearly 5,000 yard season. Y'all were sleeping. I don't know what to tell you.
Carlos throwing out hashtag invest information.
But I'm using the example though because I hear people going like, "Oh my God, I wish I had those opportunities." Look, if you really want, everybody thinks that everything has been bid up to hell. It's like, no, not really.
No, opportunities are always they're there.
Yeah. And the one principle I threw out there applies here. If it had been $137, I wouldn't have bought.
Right.
But at $37 with free shipping, with another card I wanted for the collection, okay, sure.
Like that. I know I had in one of the videos.
Yep.
That cost, I think, $11 in 2017.
Yep. Such things are possible. So my sympathy levels are low for people that come and crying to me about like, oh my God, the market's so high, there are no opportunities. It's like, well, you got to look away from the obvious places. If you want to buy the Patrick Mahomes rookie, well, maybe now is not the time. You want to buy the Tom Brady, RPA rookie or something? Like, well, maybe now is not the time. I can't help you there.
Right.
Yeah. You wanted the Aaron Rodgers? Maybe you should have done it 10 years ago like I did. And they were in a box, and I forgot about them for the better part of a decade. And then I found them.
Well, it's no different. 2,000 contenders, Brady rookies. You could have bought them for $20 all day long.
Yes, absolutely.
When the product was released.
Mm-hmm.
in like Brady's an anomaly when it comes to something like that.
For sure.
But, at the same time, opportunities have always been there. And like I said, I'm not bitching, I'm not moaning, I'm not groaning, I'm not complaining, I'm not whining. I've known they're there. It's just I've never personally taken advantage of the situations. Do I kick myself in the ass? Quite frequently. But that's also because I've always had the narrow focus, which is why in my time of collecting, I've gone away from like the player collection aspect and gone back to sets. Because getting sets that I've wanted to pick up because of the inclusion of all the rookies and everything else. And I stopped doing that for a number of years. And, like I said, it's a kick in the ass, but it's still doable right now.
Yes.
I just have to, I have to be patient. I have to, pay attention. I have to watch. And, I'll be able to snag some of those at some point in time. So.
Those last couple of phrases you said there were the magic words, patience.
Oh, yeah.
All the stories I gave were for a purpose. Did any of them reek of desperation? Was I sitting there like, oh my God, I must buy something. Oh my God, the market's moving so fast. Oh my God, I better do FOMO. No, there was like, I happened upon it, then I was scanning. Oh, let me see what you got for Deshaun Watson. I'm like, wait, that cheap? Okay, sure.
Yep.
It fell in my lap, and I'm like, okay, great.
Mm-hmm.
I have a piece of the card fund set aside where, like, if something random comes up where it's like, you would be foolish not to buy this. Well, I suppose then I must. Throw it in the box and forget about it until such time that something occurs.
Right.
I don't think it'll be the same thing, but believe me, somewhere in that box are some very low-numbered Sam Darnolds that I literally bought for nothing. If he ever gets away from the Jets and plays decent, I have rookies out of 99 from Sam Darnold that cost me less than $20. He may never be worth more than $20. What if he is?
Right.
Again, bought cheap enough. Okay, great.
Yep. Was that enter Carlos? Carlos has no response.
I didn't get what he was asking. I didn't follow.
I think when you went to the mic, he said, do it.
Oh, yeah. Well, I have, you ever seen like a cartoon where you got the good side and the bad side?
Mm-hmm.
I got the one guy that says, I think you should kill him. Well, you mean the other one is like, well, yeah, do it, but do it allegedly. Ah, okay, cool. Good point.
And the other one
You're
says,
the smarter one, clearly. You're the smarter one, clearly.
And the other one says, yes, allegedly, Carlos. Allegedly.
I agree with that guy. He's thinking. I like where his head's at. He's thinking. It's like, Carlos, isn't there supposed to be a good one? There is.
And then he's tied up in the corner. He's like, yeah, we got rid of him.
Ay. Well, Dave, we're coming up on the 3.5 hour mark. Trying to be cognizant of things.
That, and we actually went through quite a bit of the old topic, which is stunning.
It's true.
And we didn't have to wait to hour number 3.
It helps if you get started on that one early. Yes.
Yes, because as most everybody has said, we could go to episode like 465 of that, depending on situation and circumstance.
Yeah. And I mean, we still have some more, but again, I think down the road we'll probably revisit this just because, again, it's an ever-present topic. And it'll just depend on how, I'd say, the week or weeks, months go, and like, man, something really chapped my ass. I need to vent, or I need to get the community's sense of what they feel on the situation. So
Ed, we are trying to be good because Dave has some ideas. So we're monitoring the time to ensure that we stay within the 20 hours for StreamYard without going premium content, because then we're going to have to start the Patreon account for that,
Do you want 3.5-hour episodes, or do you want $40 a week membership fees?
Well, that's going a little bit more than what would be required to pay for StreamYard, since it's a yearly thing.
How is he supposed to get his Mr. T Gold chains on less than that? It's got to be a starting point.
We did cover the topics at hand, Bob. You were just late to the party, sir.
He was
We
down
cover-
the vending machines again.
Right?
Look, here's the scary part. Not only did they cover the topics, I have almost finished getting through these freaking bananas and putting them back in through the course of this podcast. I've been working on it. I've been chipping away at it. And we actually gave some legitimate hashtag invest advice, general principles that you can take with you. Do them as you will, but you can take them with you. There was some in there if you were paying attention.
Yep.
Which it doesn't seem most people were, but
But let it not be said that we did not give it. Let it not be said that it was not given. And there was some sound advice in there.
That is valid.
it will be the archive that they can watch later and maybe have a clearer and less foggy mind. And
Yeah.
And I would just like to say we only got one thumbs up this time. That's disappointing.
That's utterly outrageous. Hold on. I got you. There you go.
yes,
I doubled it for you. Done.
Bob mentioned it earlier. He was pimping to hit the thumbs up. I'm guessing that was Bob at that point in time.
He was pimping it, but he probably didn't hit it. He's like, well, other people should. I don't feel like doing it, but like other people should.
smash that like button. Me, I'm not gonna smash it.
Effort. Come on.
Now you're starting to sound like my kid, Carlos. Effort.
I've been on that train for 37 years. I think I predate your kid.
Yes, you do.
I've been on that train for some time, Steve. I got many decades of effort.
I hope you have many years, because if not, then we got problems.
Yeah, exactly. See, Andrew, that's true. I am for the prison bowling. If the prison bowling thing happens, I will find a way to get some. I'll open that on the channel. That'd be amazing,
Just to say you did it.
dude. Yes. If it hadn't been like so many obscure weird companies that were doing it, there were poker cards back in the poker boom, and I would totally have opened some of that crap. Totally. Let me get my Phil Hellmuth rookie card. Come on, I want my Phil Ivey. Let's go.
Leaf
Razor.
poker.
Yes.
Razor had a ton of that stuff.
Yep.
Yep. Leaf did some. Razor. Justice broke a crap ton of that stuff, man.
Yeah, and I believe Razor is also owned by Brian Gray. Yeah, because I think that was his company too.
Yep.
So not a coincidence.
No. No, I think he had
Are you
issues
sure?
with baseball. With some of his baseball product, he had issues. I don't know who it was with. I want to say Weeders, maybe.
Could be.
Yep, and make it happen.
Do it, buddy. We need it.
Make it happen.
We all need some prison bowling. It's what this hobby needs.
Hey, I'd buy it and sit on it.
Done.
Hashtag invest.
Match used bowling pin cards.
You'll all see if they do a subset to like Kingpin, the movie. Be amazing. They should. I would do it.
That'd be the Chasers.
Yes. Yes, it would be.
Yep.
Could be
Absolutely.
like the Sandlot cards from archives from a couple years back.
Yeah. Movie ones have been done, so yeah, you could totally do it. Why not?
Now, do you, Ed? Do you really love this?
Do you love it enough to buy the merch?
So, Carlos, any closing thoughts?
Hashtag invest.
Wow.
I'm on the last card. I did it.
Well, see, we helped keep you motivated.
Oh yes, without question, without doubt.
It was either Tire or it was the footballs out of Collector's Edge. What the hell was it? I can picture the card and I can't. President's Reserve? No. What was it? Something in '96 because it came up, I think, before Upper Deck.
I can't talk about the new KFC chicken sandwich because I haven't had one.
Yeah, I'll have one at some point, and maybe this weekend. It just depends on what happens tomorrow, and I could be on the road for a good chunk of time this weekend, and I'd stop and have that.
And
You
try.
should have done that back when they had the sandwich. There was the 2 chicken pieces as bread for the sandwich. Do you remember that thing?
I do.
That was also an abomination against the Lord, just so we're clear. Also an abomination against the Lord.
And you need to try Wendy's too.
Yeah.
You know, because they ended the chicken wars. So they say.
Allegedly?
No, it's in verbatim on the commercial.
They had the chicken wars. As a historian,
Yes.
I'm going to need to reference back onto my books to see when the chicken wars officially ended.
Yeah, because the commercial states Wendy's didn't start the chicken wars; they just ended it. Introducing the new chicken sandwich, classic chicken sandwich. Let me quote it correctly.
We'll see about that, gentlemen. I believe it was more of a chicken armistice. I don't think it was a full-fledged ceasefire. I have questions. So I think that's a good podcast. If you want, Dave, you can wrap it up. You got the line, you got the bud, buddy. I'm trying to help you. As a person who's been victim to the odd long podcast, I'm trying to assist you here.
You got any closing thoughts there, Steve? Or
No, I think it was a good episode. Covered on the topics. Thanks as always for Carlos for jumping in and joining. Always appreciated. You and I will have to sync up again and discuss in more details about future things. Start kind of get more of those outlined and figured out and see what we can do from that perspective. Yes, that is a cliffhanger, folks.
Look at
Stay
you.
tuned.
Look at you mastering the cliffhanger.
Stay tuned. Stay tuned for that.
So quick thing, since I know a lot of the folks in the chat are also the same folks that hang out at the other one, I'm going to be doing Friday this week as well because I'm not going to compete with the conference championship. I would like to watch them. So I will either be very happy after the 3 o'clock game local time or I will be very upset. So either way, I will be doing that from the comfort of my own home. But then the week after that, the week in between the Super Bowl, I'll do the Sunday live stream, the usual. So this will be Friday this week, and then I'll do Sunday next week.
With Bobby, correct? That's the
Bobby's
plan.
gonna come on and join me and hang out. We're gonna try to do the same thing. We're gonna come out a little bit hotter just to get started. I don't mind the stream being a decent length, but I know I mentioned to Bobby for sure, and I might have mentioned to Steve. I kind of want to make it so we kind of want to. I think 4 hours is good. I think that's a decent time. It's still good length of time, but it's like we're not gonna keep trying to re-break it because now it's you're gonna go past 7.5 hours. I'm sorry, someone's gonna have to pay for that because at that point I'd have to compensate somebody, myself included. I don't think I can put any more time into it. After that, it's diminishing returns anyway. We could keep going, but it's like, no, you're just dragging it out now just to make it longer. There's no point.
Agreed.
so with that, Carlos. That's Steve. And I am Dave. This has been the Insert Revolution podcast. Remember, building collections, absolutely awesome. Building the friendships within the hobby world, that's what it should be about. Good night, everyone.
Good night, everybody.